At this moment, the world has entered the Ice Age. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26. From the surface, the sultry air lasted all night. Some areas also experienced dryness and even severe heat. In the early morning, Ying Ziyue was awakened by the heat, and the window was not closed. It seems that he was feeling the heat deliberately, so as to remind himself that time is running out. Scanned the time, at 6:30 on October 11th. My parents are still resting, but the weather outside is already super hot, with a temperature of 38 degrees, sultry and no wind. There is no news about politicians, and no international economic news. The news now is all about weather conditions. Newspapers in global geography. The eruption of 7 extinct volcanoes in the Rose state of Saskatchewan caused 7,200 people to evacuate from the area. Geologists call this a peculiar and rare crustal movement. The hottest weather in the African grasslands has reached 52 degrees, and it is located in the center of the equator. At present, residents here dare not go out. Weather experts say that this kind of weather will continue to be hot in the future, and the possibility of drying up is not ruled out. The Eagle Country Meteorological Team claims that it does not rule out the following heat-caused plants and water source disasters. At present, a large number of dead fish have appeared in the ocean. After turning off the phone, Ying Ziyue hardly needs to look at it. Time really can't wait. It must be accelerated in advance. At 8 o'clock, the Special Research Institute's infrastructure meeting room. Director of Internal and External Affairs, Deputy Team Leader Guofeng, and Team Leader Ying Ziyue. Early in the morning, even if it was early morning, was still sultry and pressing, but everyone looked solemn in the meeting room. Today is the final day of arrangements for the situation of major powers before the lockdown. Migration was all for the next card arrangement, but today is the last arrangement. Guofeng. Ying Ziyue spoke out quickly. Here. Guofeng, who has a brown bear figure, said, the Special Research Institute issued an order and announced to the country that the south is a factory area, the north is an ecological agriculture area, and Nanjiang is a scientific research area. From now on, construction of steel plants and cotton-padded clothing fields will start, and the north will begin to grow vegetables with short maturity periods and large quantities. For the production of dried vegetables, the Jiangnan District Scientific Research Institute was established, and students from the Scientific Research Department of universities began to settle in various scientific research institutes in batches. Ying Ziyue ordered. This order means the end of the nation's waiting for employment, and the opening of the Great Power Plan. Workers, vegetable farmers, and scientific researchers will get busy. Receive. Guofeng spoke, and then began to make calls inside and outside the office. It's exactly 10 o'clock. The mega hot search first. Vegetable farmers in the north and south. Workers start to work. The news is very simple, that is, the Special Research Institute has released the news to the north and south officials. Now the steel carts are turned on and the vegetable farmers are turned on. In the conference room of the Special Research Institute, Guofeng was holding his mobile phone and looking at the messages one by one. Halfway through unemployment, all people are aware of something. They all started to comment one after another. Is this going to start? What should I do after the job is over? The factory and steel plant has opened, and now everyone is studying mechanical engineering. It seems that our country's next plan will be related to industry, machinery, and infrastructure, and the infrastructure tasks are huge. We have already paid more than 1 billion people for infrastructure projects. God is really exciting. For thousands of years, the Sui dynasty opened the Grand Canal project, and the Qin dynasty Great Wall project. Finally reached the modern age, and came the great action project that can be recorded in history, with a burly body, strong and brutal. Guofeng, the deputy team leader at the moment, looked at the message, and smiled more. On this day during the day, internal and external affairs, and Ying Ziyue began to allocate. Such as the focus of the opening of the factory, steel factory, lathe factory, running in plant, tire factory, fine iron factory, and so on. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, all the staff of the Special Research Institute stood up, including Ying Ziyue. In front of 10 academic buildings, 8 teams stood up. Special police. The guards began to inspect the garrison. Along with the vibration of the propeller from the sky, a WZ-10 helicopter landed slowly. The hatch opened, and the boss walked down. He was still so burly, with a straight back. The old man was wearing a black tan gown, with short hair, capable, and his eyes were bright and sharp. Ying Ziyue stood in the first position. He was wearing a black overalls, similar to a military uniform, with short hair, standing straight and bright. All of them stood straight, and looked at the old man with respect. Ying kid. The old man patted the cabin. Ying Ziyue motioned to board the helicopter. The hatch closed, and the helicopter took off slowly. A kilometer away, 4 helicopters were patrolling and escorting. The plane flew very fast, and the destination was unexpectedly above the coastal city. Yanjing was not very far from the coastal city and the northwestern border. After 20 minutes, I looked down on the provincial highways, and saw a lot of cars. Some of the trucks were hung with flags, saying, King Huan Dao. Some were, Liao Hei, and Dao Zicheng, etc. Most of these trucks go to the north and a small part to the south. From the perspective of God, it is the freight power that truly feels the terror of the East. I personally watched you step by step from shutting down the country to preparing for industrial infrastructure, which is very good. There is a lot of space in the cabin, and the old man's voice is very transparent. It should be done. Ying Ziyue said, with a smile on the corner of her mouth. Witnessing a big country in action is an ultimate sense of honor. The old man took a deep breath and took out a key, which was a special metal key made of alloy. He handed it to Ying Ziyue and signaled the helicopter to return. Along the way, the old man did not speak. As the helicopter landed at the Special Research Institute and opened the cabin, the old man looked at Ying Ziyue with a firm voice. During the Cold War, a 5,000-kilometer long underground tunnel that can be used to defend against nuclear bomb attacks was built in my country's Yanjing under 100 meters underground. There are my country's top scientific research institutes and top nuclear fission technology. From now on, I will watch you take this country to resist disasters with my own eyes. As the guardian of a great country, please protect this country. Boom. Above the cabin, the old man slowly raised his hand and saluted in awe. This salute represents thorough belief and trump cards. Ying Ziyue also stood straight and saluted. Behind him, the remaining scientific research team, the Minister of Internal and External Affairs also suddenly saluted. Next, before the arrival of the Ice Age, you will see the Snow Country train going around the country. You will see a chain of wind and snow standing on this continent. You will see that the East has become the only giant that survives the Ice Age. Boom. After the ceremony, Ying Ziyue retracted. He still stood straight, and the helicopter went away. Ying Ziyue knew that from now on, she had all the qualifications for deployment. Before that, the old man had been paying attention to her silently, and she had proved her ability with her actions. Now he can rest assured. The country is closed. Tens of millions of people are migrating, and all colleges and universities are entering mechanical agriculture. Everything is for the next Zhao Guofeng. Ying Ziyue growled low, "Here." Zhao Guofeng saluted. "Call on the train team to hold a Snow Country train meeting. Starting today, the Snow Country train operation will begin." Yes. Chapter 27. Train learning building. From the first floor, the hall is full of drawings about mechanical trains. For example, it is Venetian Simplon, which is one of the classic European trains, and then the Madre Mountain train, which is a train that traverses mountains and uses Takahashi infrastructure, and then Dangying's superconducting maglev train. It is Dangying's train that periodically changes the direction of its magnetic poles to obtain propulsion power. As for the largest and most perfect relief, the maglev train is the top train in my country and even the world. This is train learning. In the world, the East's high-speed rail technology is famous in scale and even leads the world. Covering multiple provinces, municipalities, and remote areas, shuttles multiple viaducts, dense forests, hilly areas, ocean bridges. This is the confidence of Ying Ziyue in proposing the Snow Country train plan as a big country integrating trains, infrastructure, agriculture, and industry. Only the East is qualified to build a great and spectacular Snow Country train technology, surrounding the corridors with reliefs, witnessing the development of human trains, high-speed rail, and magnetic levitation technology. Walking here, you can feel the power of the train point. It is 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun sets at dusk point. The train learning building is still a landmark 4-story building, with open floor-to-ceiling windows, and bunches of after-temperature sun is still shining point. It's just that the weather is still sultry, and the sun is still higher, since the beginning of July. The average temperature has been rising almost every day, dry, without rain, sultry, and dry point. The complicated hot weather converges, and there is still a sunshine record pointer hanging in the meeting room. The current sunshine time belongs to the plane surface sunshine time, which has been reduced by half an hour in total. Point darkness at 5 o'clock in the afternoon is no longer an illusion point at 10 o'clock in the evening. Dawn is no longer an illusion point. Sultry, a large number of oceans are anaerobic, and a large number of creatures are extinct. Point the resulting air becomes more complicated. Sitting in the conference room and feeling the power of nature, Ying Ziyue can almost see the global situation. Point the East is no longer the focus now, and environmental protection has become the focus. The ocean is estimated to be protected. It's a pity that it's too late, or that any protection is invalid. Point clatter knocked on the table lightly. Ying Ziyue's eyes were torch, and he glanced at the crowd quickly. Point the head of the interior, the deputy team leader, and the geography team leader Chen Guo, and the deputy train team leader is Chen Jiang, the principal of Xihai. Everyone, time doesn't wait for me. President Chen, how is the selection of professors of train science? Ying Ziyue said. Team leader Ying, the screening started 3 days ago. It was jointly screened by the Yanjing Research Institute, my country train research center, and high-speed rail test center. From 7 universities, nearly 400 top professors have been screened, and now they have been screened. There are 50 people currently in the examination hall of Xihai Machinery Department, waiting for the last examination questions at any time. Will we arrange the examination questions this time, or will you come? Principal Chen asked. I come. Ying Ziyue stood up. He turned around. On the wall of the train learning conference room were sketches of the Snow Country train. Point they are all great plans and plans to go around the country. This time Ying Ziyue did not intend to let the official screen, because the Snow Country train is a crazy plan, and must be crazy candidates. Conventional ideas and thinking are completely impossible to design such a great train. It's 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and the test will start at 8 o'clock in the evening. 50 psychologists are arranged to take charge of the recording work. Ying Ziyue spoke. Point in the meeting room, the others nodded. Now they also want to know what decision Ying Ziyue will make in this exam question. Who is valued by old man number 1, who is also the chief executive of Snow Country Train and the chief organization of the Special Research Institute. Point the sultry weather is rustling. Point at 8 o'clock exactly, the mechanical examination hall of Xihai University. Point the windows of the current examination hall were temporarily covered, and the lighting was at the lowest dim light. Ying Ziyue stood on the podium, and 50 professors sat under the podium. Ying Ziyue inserted the contents of the USB flash drive made by herself, and then used it exclusively for his indifferent voice sounded, as an elite trainer. This is your task for the next exam questions. Ying Ziyue said. Point then the contents of the UDisc appeared on the projection screen. Point the first is a picture of hot weather. The second is that a large number of sea creatures are beginning to die, and the weather is extremely hot. Point the third is in all parts of the country, hundreds of millions of train workers began to lay the track. The track is too big, the width is close to 100 meters. Like a mountain. At this step, the camera in the classroom is turned on, all showing fear and disbelief. All of the professors began to be monitored and recorded. Point then there is the third one. This is a really huge double-decker train, like a huge mountain. Then in the howling wind and snow, the huge train slowly galloped around this huge country, and then stopped at every province. This scene was even more shocking. At this moment, the faces of more people in the classroom changed, and they were recorded again by surveillance point in the monitoring room on the second floor. Psychologists began to evaluate the reactions of these professors, and at the same time, began to check their previous papers, but all professors who followed the rules and showed such horrified expressions were directly eliminated. Professors who have published that ordinary people who have no personal thinking are directly eliminated. Then came the fourth scene, which was a great and even miraculous scene point from the perspective of God. The huge train departed from Yanjing, and then above the train, there was a blizzard cold wave marked by professional physics. Then the train was frozen, and the ice ravaged everything. This scene changed the faces of all the professors. The lights turned on, and Ying Ziyue, who had already walked out of the classroom, at the end of the preliminary examination questions. All the professors who can leave now are professors with unlimited thinking. They can also be called lunatics. This is not a madman. Before the electric light appeared, Edison was a madman. When nuclear weapons did not appear, mankind would not have thought that weapons would be horrible. To this point, of course, before the Snow Country train appeared, only lunatics dared to think about it. The pre-Ice Age team needed this kind of lunatic. At the door, the head of the interior and Zhao Feng were still talking. This will not reveal the Snow Country train plan. Zhao Feng worried. Puff. Limping, the head of the interior couldn't help but smile. He pointed to the west, then pointed to the east behind, with a proud voice. Do you think anyone can resist disasters like us? This is the Ice Age. Not the flood came to build Noah's Ark, nor the zombies appeared and built it. The underground base is not a flat star hitting the earth and driving a spacecraft to escape from the earth. This is an Ice Age that only a billion people can work hard to resist. You tell me, who is like us in the world? Then what is the team leader Ryan doing? It's incredible beyond academic assessment. Zhao Feng frowned. He is testing the personal thinking and extreme power of these trained professors. This disaster is too terrifying. Conventional and conventional. The nerd trained professor can't design this kind of train at all. Limping, the head of the interior, looked at the leader Ying, who was left behind, with a complicated voice. Only professors with crazy, adventurous, and unlimited thinking can enter the train design team. I can almost predict how crazy this train plan is. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28. At 8:30, 50 psychologists with special medical background in Yanjing quickly did a sentiment analysis, but all professors who are afraid, despise academics, and other emotions are removed. At 9 o'clock exactly, there are 10 people in the elegant and bright conference room of Xihai University. At this moment, these 10 people are dressed in different costumes, and basically everyone is still thinking about the great giant train. In his mind. Finally, a middle-aged professor with messy hair and black-rimmed glasses said, "This time the special recruitment is recruited by the Special Research Institute. Why is the last test question that giant train?" While speaking, the middle-aged professor couldn't help getting excited, and his voice became louder. Could it be that this kind of train will be designed next? As soon as the middle-aged professor spoke, other professors quickly reflected. They are not nerds. Some are chief engineers of maglev trains from the emergence of the giant train. They recalled the recent big actions of the country. The country has been locked down, moved, and all people are waiting for jobs. Besides, all the trains and high-speed rails are now stopped except for coastal cities, and only passenger cars and planes are left. Thinking of this, several professors thought of the huge colored sketch of the train again, and their expressions changed completely. Really want this kind of plan? Super huge train plan. Oh my god, it's crazy. The whole country will build this kind of train. The 10 people present did not show any fear, and everyone was a little excited because they had never received it and had never had such a great and vast project in the world for thousands of years. Clatter, a very clear voice, the sound of the wooden door being pushed open in the meeting room. At the same time, a refined and clear voice. Good evening, professors, and welcome you to join the Special Research Center train team. I'm Ying Ziyue, the leader of the Special Research Group, and the general manager of the Snow Country Train Project. Ying Ziyue stood straight, and he looked at everyone with extreme solemnity. Now you are officially welcome to join the national resistance. At this moment, the light was bright and shining clearly on Ying Ziyue. The young man in front of him was wearing a special black military uniform, with short hair, handsome features, and a cold and upright expression, giving people a strong sense of persecution. Now he was standing here, and the other professors were stunned. The leader of the Special Research Group. What a young leader. Other professors couldn't help but smile. On the Western internet, the Special Research Group has become the most evil, domineering, and cruel official organization. The group leader is regarded as the villain of the East. Now no one has thought that he is a young man. Behind Ying Ziyue, Zhao Guofeng explained the nationwide resistance plan. At 9:30. These professors stood excited and enthusiastic, looking at the prints of the passing train, and couldn't help shaking. Fight against disaster, the power of the whole country, the super action of more than 1 billion people. Everyone's vocabulary, every single point stimulated everyone trembling with excitement. Leader. I designed Shanghai's maglev train before, and I have also involved 7 mountain trains in Europe. My suggestion is 1 train per province. This way, it can ensure circulation, and it will be the size of an ordinary train. 10 times that. In the second seat, a middle-aged professor in a suit could not help but excited. Opposite him, a bald middle-aged man also stood up in seat 3, his voice excited. I have involved plateau trains. I have designed trains from Sichuan to Hanzhong Plateau for 10 years, and I personally built the best in China. For difficult trains, I can involve huge trains that travel around half a country, which can carry up to 100,000 passengers, because the trains are too large to carry passengers, and they can be carried out perfectly. Leader Ying, you must have heard of the Alstom high-speed train from the country. I personally submitted the design plan. I can design the provincial transit train to ensure that it will reach every province, any place, and any remote area within half a day. In the conference room, every professor stood up excitedly and began to talk about his plan. Clatter. Ying Ziyue butted the table lightly, and the meeting room became quiet. With eyes like a sword, Ying Ziyue glanced at the crowd, and her voice was extremely solemn. The drawings in your hands are real, and the sketches are also real. This time we are going to design a project with a width of more than 100 meters, 2 floors high, and a height of 30 meters. The track is 120 meters long, divided into train carriages and passenger carriages. Each carriage is 1 kilometer long. Do you know how big this train station is? Ying Ziyue looked at these professors. Her voice continued. Our art school students will serve as train service personnel. The train station can accommodate millions of people, because there are only 2 train stations in the country. Boom. Ying Ziyue stood up. Her voice was very sonorous. What do you think is the Ice Age? What is a disaster? Can a simple small train be able to defend it? It must go around the country. It must be a super huge train with a total of hundreds of thousands of passengers. This is 1 billion people resisting disaster. At this moment, Ying Ziyue officially told the train team professor for the first time what is a real disaster. Guaranteed to complete the task. Guaranteed to complete the task, as Ying Ziyue imagined. Each of these professors who can be selected by psychologists is extremely capable of psychological acceptance. In the middle of the night, the moon entered the galaxy, and the train team was basically selected. Ying Ziyue went home to rest this time. Yulong community was not far from the Special Research Institute. He arrived home at 10 o'clock and his parents left a meal. While eating, Ying Ziyue looked at the weather forecast that was rebroadcasted repeatedly. In the weather forecast map, the pictures across the country have turned dark red, which is a sign that the average degree exceeds 35 degrees. It's getting higher and higher. As for the global map, the extreme temperature of countries close to the equator has reached 50 degrees. Going back to the bedroom and observing the moon again, the carbon dioxide shielding degree is even higher. Opening the window is the sultry heat. Ying Ziyue hardly needs to guess that the large number of dead fish in the ocean has not been announced because Western officials are afraid of public panic and ocean economic crisis call. Ying Ziyue let out a long sigh. Fortunately, the east started. The snow country train project has also started, and finally it is on the right track before the disaster. This night, Ying Ziyue slept soundly. It was not light at 6:30, and the sanitation workers began to wonder why it was not light. Yet at 7 o'clock exactly, the genius began to light up. Chapter 29. The 12th. 7 o'clock. In front of Yulang number 1 villa. This is a Chinese style kin-like balcony construction, with carved beams and painted buildings, kin spears and long shields, and the reliefs are quite amazing. On the balcony, Ying Ziyue stood quietly. He was wearing a special black military uniform, and his heroism was formidable. Watching the sweltering weather hit, the car downstairs started, and the parents had hurried to work. Since the opening of the southern factory in the northern ecological park, the work of public officials has been a lot busy, especially the mass migration. As the vehicle moved away, Ying Ziyue took out his mobile phone and dialed Zhao Guofeng. The deputy team leader squeaky. After the call was connected, Ying Ziyue's voice was solemn and even spoke frantically. The snow country train operation begins. There was silence on the other end of the phone for 3 seconds, followed by a frantic low growl. You know, the big country has been preparing for this snow country train for a long time. 10 o'clock in the morning. This is a staff dormitory of Shanghai railway station. DDDD. At this moment, there was a sharp gathering voice. In the dormitory, a famous train worker's expression changed drastically. Everyone was quickly getting up and getting dressed. Li Dahei was one of them. He was from Shanghai Station to Yanjing Station. The high-speed rail driver has been out of work for a week recently. Hearing this kind of first-level assembly order, he couldn't help but sink in his heart. In the same dormitory, the others are also high-speed rail drivers, and some are train drivers. Ocean, what's the situation? This is a first-level assembly signal. I remember that this kind of prompt would only appear when the train derailed. The face of a thin man with a rheumat also changed dramatically. Don't say it, hurry up, it must be a big change. The officials have kept us out of work for a week, and there must be a major infrastructure task. Li Dahei quickly put on his clothes. A few people walked out of the dormitory. At this moment, they looked at other dormitory areas. Not only them, but also other railway maintenance workers' dormitories were also gathering. The high-speed rail management department was also gathering, and the train department was gathering, including train service personnel's dormitories. In short, high-speed rail, trains, and general departments are all gathering. I haven't gathered together like this before during the Chinese New Year. Li Dahei couldn't help grinning. You know that the news on the internet is spreading about infrastructure now. Looking at this collective signal, Li Dahei believes that there will definitely be an incredible mega infrastructure operation next. At 8:10, all gathered. Shanghai railway station has been gradually eliminated, but even so, there are still 10,000 people gathered at all. As for the high-speed railway station, nearly 60,000 people gathered, including security personnel. In front of each department, there was a serious voice from the head of management holding a microphone. According to the national order, the Special Research Institute is called for the task. From now on, the train department and the high-speed railway department will all stop waiting for work, and all will be invested in the construction of a major country train plan. We are all standing. We are standing. We all have to wash our faces quickly, and then we are going to do a big project. In the high-speed rail driver department, nearly 100 drivers stood straight. In front of them, the middle-aged minister shouted, "The order issued by the Special Research Institute above is very simple. That is, our country is to design a giant train that will gallop around 25 provinces. From now on, all railway personnel will join the Great Power Train Plan." After the middle-aged minister finished speaking, among the high-speed rail drivers, Li Dahei was in the first row. He was stunned, as if the sound was still ringing in his ears. The Great Power Train Project, a huge train track spreading across 25 provinces. Be good. This is even more terrifying than the construction of the Great Wall in the Qin Dynasty. You must know that the longest Great Wall is the Ming Dynasty, but now it is necessary to build a non-stop track around the country. Not only was Li Dahei stunned, but the railroad workers were also stunned. Then the proud voices of department ministers sounded. What, are you all stupefied? Do you know how big the gap between our country's development in the 1990s and now is? You think we are downgearing? We are Korea, and this is a country of infrastructure madness. Receive. Boom. It's not just the Shanghai High-Speed Rail Center, the Yanjing High-Speed Rail Center, as well as the Northwest and the provincial railway stations of the two major provinces in the plateau region: Point Jinling, Guangcheng, Xihai City, Qinhuangdao, etc. There are close to 400 high-speed rail stations in cities of all sizes across the country, and a total of close to 3,000 railway stations, including passenger stations attached to trains. The total railway workers plus contract workers, college students, plus the railway construction worker team, the total number of unemployed workers receiving news is close to 40 million. Each department is opened. The official news from the Special Research Institute also appeared: Mika, Zhou, and so on. Point hot search first. Our country's infrastructure mad army is dispatched. The Special Research Institute released the news that the high-speed railway stations, or line workers, railway personnel, railway construction teams, and railway college students have all received the news that the major country's infrastructure projects are about to begin. This is an announcement from the Internal Affairs official, and the content is impressively big country infrastructure projects, big country trains. It is a snow country train inside, and a big country train outside. Internal Affairs Center. Started. High-speed rail trains and trains stopped waiting for work. You are a major infrastructure country, and you have 40 million railway populations. Build a major country's infrastructure plan, and a super train that goes around the country. Picture, giant train. Point below this talk, there are pictures from high-speed rail stations across the country. This is a salute of railway workers wearing overalls, and some holding railway tools. The pictures represent the horror of infrastructure power. Under the hot comment, it exploded directly. From the new novel group 872,847,971 this group updates daily novels. From the new novel group 872,847,971. It started. It's the report. The 16-year-old Shanghai Iron Army retired veteran reported that our retired railway workers will also participate in this great power operation for the construction and development of the country. The honor is extremely high. College railway students apply to join. Me too. I'm contracting railway construction projects in remote areas. This time I will bring my engineering team to participate. I will personally build this great project, going around the country, a great country train, nothing else. I believe in the Special Research Institute. I believe in a big country. Now my foreign personnel are gone. All of them are my own compatriots. Just for this, I'm willing to participate in this project. There are many reviews, not just the fanaticism of meager internet users on all major platforms. News headlines have all become "Do you know how terrible is my country's current major country train project?" After the retreat, the East ushered in the world's largest miracle large-scale project. It started. It's the train infrastructure project that has been recorded in history. Click. Point at 10 o'clock. The news is released from 7 o'clock. 3 hours of news were delivered, and then sorted out, and announced. On the balcony of the villa, Ying Ziyue closed the news. And he neatly arranged his clothes. It's like going on a trip. Chapter 30. At 10:30, the Supernatural Special Research Institute. Of the 10 academic buildings, 9 of them have all settled in the academic team, leaving only the infrastructure team. At the moment in the train learning conference room, the deputy team leader is Chen Jiang, the principal of Qinghua. 10 team members, as well as the interior chief Lin Ping, and the deputy team leader Zhao Guofeng are all in the conference room. In the conference room, full of various train drawings, official reports appeared one by one on the projection. Shanghai local reporter. Hello friends. All Shanghai high-speed rail workers are already in place, and they will follow the arrangement and enter the major project. Local reporters from Yanjing, Guangcheng and other local reporters all appeared, and they all reported on the start of ironworkers one after another in the conference room. Zhao Guofeng couldn't help it anymore. He watched Ying Ziyue speak. Leader Ying, do we need to talk about why we started the train operation? Xiao Guofeng frowned. We must know that now the Special Research Institute, major officials have announced that the next 40 million railway workers will act, tell the people the Ice Age. This will cause controversy around the world. Look at this. Xiao Guofeng switched projections. This was in a certain search engine. With the title Great Power Action in the post bar there is a sticky post on Tiba called What is my country's great power train? Below this post are comments from all over the country, universities, civilians, students, and middle-aged people. The post bar opens, and comments on each post appear. Chen Shuiwen, what is it? It is a miracle of infrastructure history. You have to know that my country's infrastructure development is very strong now. I think the next step will be the evolution of infrastructure civilization. I think it's a super big project. If you know that the Qin dynasty has the Great Wall, the current plan is just as shocking. Fundamentals are rolling the trains of big countries. It is estimated that the highway can even be cancelled at the extreme. This is a super great plan, Lord of the Village. I seem to have seen the birth of this miracle in the history of infrastructure. Click. Ice Age's plan cannot be announced, otherwise it will have an international influence. Deputy Team Leader Xiao Guofeng said. In the meeting room, Professor of Train Studies and Chief of Interior Lin Ping frowned. Clatter. The knock on the table stopped everyone's speculation. Ying Ziyue stood up. He looked at the calendar with a calm voice. It's 11 o'clock in the morning on July 12th. I once asked Chen Guo, the head of the geography team and the Jinling earthquake team, to collect my country's earthquake fluctuation records for 5,000 years. I also told the Scientific Research Institute that before the advent of the glacier world, it was not only sultry, but also a series of natural disasters, tornadoes, floods, heavy rains, volcanic eruptions, and earthquakes. As Ying Ziyue was talking, she turned on the projection and played several international meteorological news from Twitter at will. 7 giant fire tornadoes appeared in the Rose Country, Saskatchewan. 3 medium-scale tsunamis occurred in Mark Beach, the country of Australia. Click. After the timeout, Ying Ziyue looked at everyone in the meeting room. His preparation will shut everyone up and shock everyone. Do you know why I moved coastal cities, plateau cities, and border cities without man's land? Ying Ziyue swept the crowd and spoke calmly. In order to better gather the population, the Snow Country trains material transportation, a train professor asked. Not only these, Principal King He Chenjiang's expression changed. He couldn't help but look at Ying Ziyue excitedly. At this moment, Deputy Team Leader Xiao Guofeng's expression also changed, and he seemed to have thought of something too. Several other professors stared at the news of the national migration, and then looked at the news of foreign disasters again, and they seemed to understand something. Earthquake. A tsunami. At this moment, everyone in the conference room understands. In coastal cities and remote cities, the migration of 20 million people is an overall situation. It's 11 o'clock and there is still half an hour left. I have calculated the effects of crustal movement, volcanic eruptions, and glaciers. I also conducted a comprehensive calculation with the Earthquake Center of the Scientific Research Institute. An earthquake and a tsunami broke out today. Ying Ziyue spoke gracefully, without rush or delay, without arrogance or impetuosity. The professor in the conference room, the head of the house, looked at Ying Ziyue's eyes all changed. Only now did they know that the young man in front of him was really terrifying. From the beginning, he had predicted everything. Every step, every question was perfectly prepared. He not only has the ability to predict basic disasters, but also has the means to pave the way for the overall situation. Contact the Yanjing Astronomical Bureau, project the pictures of coastal cities and border cities, and then jointly open the live broadcast with Mika, and let the whole people take a look at the methods of the Special Research Institute. Clatter standing up and pacing, she spoke gracefully. Ying Ziyue smiled at the corner of her mouth. This is a strategizing, confident smile in her grasp. Whatever rumors on the internet, all kinds of post topics, will disappear in the next live broadcast. The Special Research Institute will let the people know that the decision of the Special Research Institute has always been right. Received. Xiao Guofeng nodded excitedly. At 11:10, the MEGA major officials. The hot search first appeared. Hot search first. Special Research Institute live room. Why do we move? This is a live satellite image point at that time. In the dormitory at Jinling Agricultural University, 4 college students were arguing. I think the train plan is too big. It's so shocking. A fat man couldn't help asking, stop talking, go to Weibo, said the fat man's roommate in the lower bunk point soon. The 4 people turned on the tablet, and in the live broadcast room, this was a bird's eye view of 4 different cities they are Qinghangdao, Liaohei, Daozicheng, and Wancheng Point. This is a picture taken by satellites. At this moment, the 4 cities have 2 coastal areas, and 2 are on the edge of the plateau. These are 4 empty cities, and they are not half populated. Up to 30 million people watched online in the live broadcast room, and rapid barrage appeared. What are you going to see? Yes. Do you want to see the empty city? The barrage flicked, and time passed by 1 minute and 1 second. There were 5 million fewer people online, and then it was 11:30 in the dormitory of Agricultural University. The 4 of them couldn't help but want to close the live broadcast room impatiently, and they were suddenly stunned. The live room screen has changed. In the Lao Sea, under satellite photography, the blue water suddenly rose sharply. This is a terrifying typhoon and huge wave from the Pacific Ocean. There is no warning, just like some kind of huge crustal movement on the seabed. A wave nearly 80 meters high broke through the beach, rushing directly toward the street like a giant dragon. Fuck. A tsunami. The fat man couldn't help but shiver. Fortunately, the city in Liaohei became an empty city. Then in Wancheng, the calm ground trembled suddenly. Under the clear satellite image, the giant building was shaking. Cracks appeared suddenly on the ground, and the ravines appeared, and they were covered with twists and turns. The tall building is collapsing. This is a preliminary judgment of an earthquake of magnitude 8 or higher. Earthquake. The thin man couldn't help exclaiming in the dormitory. At this moment, the barrage in the live broadcast room has completely changed. Fuck. I know now why the Special Research Institute, why the government has to move urgently. This horse riding is to avoid disaster. A big country is awesome. I now completely believe in the ability of the Special Research Institute. This is to avoid disaster. In advance, no one was injured this time. This will be a miracle in the history of global disasters. Oh my god. What kind of department is the Special Research Institute? It actually predicted that tsunami and the earthquake, and it also allowed 20 million people to avoid the disaster. This is a flood of at least 100 meters high, and an earthquake of magnitude 8 or higher. Once this happens, the casualties are simply terrifying. The Special Research Institute is very powerful and unconditionally supports the Great Power Train project. I only know that this plan will definitely be beneficial to our country. Chapter 31. On the 12th, 12 o'clock in the morning. At this moment, the news of the entire Oriental network exploded. Zahoo, Mika, headlines and other news are only left. Oriental Special Research Institute, the most shocking department in history, successfully predicted 2 super disasters. 20 million people migrate to avoid disasters. Special research institutes are invincible. Trains of great powers are invincible. This moment, the previous 20 million people migrated and successfully avoided earthquakes and tsunamis. The Special Research Institute completely convinced the public that on the current internet, there is only excitement, anticipation, and excitement for the whole people. On the big country train point Special Research Center in the train learning conference room, Ying Ziyue ambitions with both hands, pacing watching the news projected one by one. This is Western news, synchronized with Eastern disasters. Global news. Australia's small sea town in Kars has suffered a magnitude 8 tsunami, which has left 427 people missing. A magnitude 8 earthquake broke out this morning in Tanna City in the northern part of the Eagle Country, causing 1,302 people to be missing. Wancheng in the northwest of the east Daozicheng was hit by a magnitude earthquake at 11:31 am on July 12, causing 0 casualties at present. Eastern Qinghangdao, Liaohei, an 8 magnitude tsunami occurred at 11:31 am on July 12. It is currently suspected to be an undersea earthquake in the northern Pacific Ocean, and no casualties have been caused so far. At this moment, in one of the major news in foreign media, Western netizens are in the official Seismological Bureau and Oceanic Bureau of 8. Got East. This country has 0 casualties in the face of geological disasters. God is here. The luck of the East is too good. They migrated to avoid that tsunami and disasters. It seems that this country is not as simple as we imagined. They really have terrifying technology. Click. The projection stopped. Ying Ziyue nodded in satisfaction. Both China and the West suffered disasters at the same time, and certain regions in the West suffered heavy losses. The actions of the Special Research Institute have been proved once again that the public will no longer doubt the instructions of the Special Research Institute. The Snow Country train, wind, and Snowlink City can all be used together. Team Leader Ying, you are such a enchanting. Deputy Team Leader Zhao Guofeng groaned for a moment, and finally gritted his teeth. With you in this country, I'm more confident to fight against disasters. Limping, the head of the interior, smiled. He patted Ying Ziyue's chest, and extended his thumb to encourage him. The latter stood quietly in front of the French windows. Now the whole people is completely one mind. At that time point, because of the great power trains, the West began to pay attention to the train plan. In the western part of the Eagle Country, Yadis is a small city. Here is the center of the International Architectural Association with the most architectural style. This architectural association is recognized as the highest level of architecture in the West. At the moment in the building hall, President Gate, this is a native. He has a beard, and he is looking at the plan of the East at this moment. Build train tracks covering the whole country, and build giant super trains to cover any area of the country. Clatter quietly and gracefully knocking his hands. President Gate had no will. In front of him, an international architect couldn't help but utter a voice. God, I swear that even if God comes, this kind of train project will not be completed because it is too difficult. This is a black architect. Then in the lobby, a camera was shooting. They rolled out the sand table. Some architects began to calculate the materials and the difficulty of laying the track. I saw that black architects began to simulate laying tracks, laying mountains, ocean bridges, then dense forest areas in the interior, and mountains and rivers in the interior of the ocean. In the end, judging from the perspective of God, the huge square train covers the area of this country, and the train slowly pushes forward. Obstacles subsequently appeared. First, the dense forest could not build such a giant orbital layer, as well as the complex soft maps and geographical environment of the East. The members of the construction association did not directly ridicule. They looked for a video camera to record the scene of the construction team's simulation, and then asked questions, then said that the track could not be laid, and then simulated the speed of the train. Boom. The black architect pointed to the starting point of the track, which was Yanjing. He pointed at the camera, and while tidying up his suit, he spoke very academically and gracefully. Hey Eastern Architectural Team, Train Team, we are the most representative architectural association in the Eagle Country and even in the West. Our association has a history of 350 years. We have designed the Leaning Tower, the White King Palace in the United States, and the Great Statue of Liberty. We tested your project. No one can do this train plan. The black man smiled, and at the same time he calculated the materials one by one behind his back. They are: soft soil structure cannot build a bridge. The original dense forest area is complex and cannot be paved. The complex structure of the Yangtze River cannot be paved. The mountains and rivers are too tall to be paved or detoured. This is a question one by one, followed by statistics at the end. The black architect smiled at the camera. I'm Eddie, and the train project has failed in the simulation of the tallest architecture in the West. After the recording was over, the video was quickly uploaded to the tubing, and many foreign media comments appeared. The Eagle Country Construction Association is doing the right thing. It is true that this kind of train is too difficult. This is a train going around the country. No one can do it. I swear by the name of Jehovah, this kind of train that goes around the country. God, this is the train that belongs to God, the Mount of Angels. Yanjing Special Research Institute. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the train crew meeting room was interrupted because of news links and records from the Ministry of Foreign Education. At This moment, as the video opened, the simulation of Eagle Country's construction team suddenly failed, citing academics. Many simulations failed. Clatter. Ying Ziyue continued to tap his fingers lightly. He didn't say much, just changed his eyes and glanced at the train professor present. The soft soil layer will be laid with gravel and cement, and then a bridge will be erected. The train professor with seat number 2 directly spoke. Yes, there are mountains and rivers obstructing it. This will be a nearly circular track, covering all sides. The huge mountains and rivers will change the track far distance. Near mountains and rivers will be blasted, and in serious cases, tunnels will be taken. Number 3 seat. The old days Professor Zhao of Shanghai Maglev train said with disdain. Yes, what are the original dense forest obstructions? We will lay the bridge in the river area. Now the sea bridge technology is mature. In the conference room, several professors spoke one after another, and at this moment they showed their abilities according to the tricks. Multiple train track laying plans were adopted. In the main position, Ying Ziyue nodded with satisfaction. Sure enough, most of the professors selected through psychology are experienced and ambitious, especially the implementation of a plan for the whole people, plus the mysterious team leader Ying Ziyue. Everyone showed their greatest ability. Team leader? Zhao Guofeng said, this is a kind of sign to know that the railway workers across the country have stopped waiting for work. The Snow Country train operation is on. Ying Ziyue got up, and the remaining 10 professors got up at the same time. Subsequently, Zhao Guofeng made a call. At the same time, on MEGA, the Special Research Institute, Internal Affairs Center, Youth League, Shanghai High-Speed Railway Terminal, and Yangjing High-Speed Railway Terminal officially announced the official MEGA at 3:10 in the afternoon. Announcement. From now on, the Great Power Train Plan is launched. The first station of the track is Yangjing, and a total of 40 million railway workers are on the move at the same time. Picture, national flag. At this moment, after the announcement was seen by tens of millions of people, one of the most liked comments was, infrastructure, the country of crazy demons, started. Chapter 32. How strong is the Iron Army? At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the Special Research Institute ordered the transmission of various train departments, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all official news appeared. Shanghai High-Speed Railway official, 200,000 railway workers are here. Flag with pictures. Jinling High-Speed Railway official, 150,000 railway workers are here. With map flag. Hanzhou Plateau official, the 800,000 railway engineering team is here. With map flag. Then Beicheng, Guangcheng, Zhejiangcheng, north and south, one after another municipalities, large trucks, all gathered in Yangjing. In the meeting room, Ying Ziyue looked at the small video screens of certain voices one by one. It's all a headline for a short time. Support for train infrastructure in major countries. Order with one piece of paper and start work for all people. Zhao Seng. Professor Ma Suhei, one of you designed the plateau train and the other designed the maglev train. You are responsible for the train tracks this time. This is the train track plan I provided. It can pass through downtown, cross low cliffs, and soar in Sichuan and Shu areas. In the conference room, Ying Ziyue spoke. This is the first train plan he announced. The original plan was to lay conventional high-speed rail trains plus gravel by train crews. Clatter. The projection opens, and the first track on the screen appears. This is a high-altitude rail transit that is located at a height of 25 meters and a light overpass. It can cross provincial highways. On the projection screen, a colored sketch of the overpass track appears. The giant track is like a mountain covering the ground. The overpass is replaced by an arch-shaped iron pillars ensure a stable triangular structure. This kind of high-altitude rail transit can be used to pass through suburban provincial highways and individual urban villages. The second picture opens. This is a macro underground tunnel located in a mountainous city. It is close to the highway, and it can be galloped across the highway and under the bridge without affecting the construction plan. It is possible to shuttle through the tunnel, because the Sichuan Shu area has complex terrain, and this kind of multi-terrain track must be used. The third picture. This is the suspended monorail track after the Cold War period. This is a suspended track. In the picture, this type of track is generally used in the original dense forest area, such as the Zhejiang province, the south and other dense forest track areas. This kind of high bridge with triangular columns can be erected, and suspended tracks can be laid. Once the cold wave comes, the first wave of strong winds can make the train in suspension. Wind speed decompression. Point. The third picture is extremely beautiful, because Ying Ziyue sketches are extremely perfect, especially the color filling. Every subtle part is filled with color materials. For example, when the Daxing'anling forest is covered by snow and the cold wave hits, a snow country train hung in the sky whistling and galloping in the wind and snow. This scene will be extremely spectacular. The fourth picture is based on the Skalmore Metro, the capital of Rudian, and the upgraded giant mountain runs through the tunnel track. This directly uses the National Railway off-stack technology plus double-deck track plus inch rail plus S2 line internal combustion commuter plus RUBBER wheel-guided track equals form a huge mountain through track. This is a large mountain through tunnel. The mountain area, where the snow country train runs, will use this kind of tunnel. The fourth picture is when a giant train passes through huge mountain tunnels, and then breaks out into the night. Point. Dense forests, complex cities, Sichuan and Shu areas. As for Zhejiang, across sea bridges adopted. Click. The picture switched to the last one, which is extremely stalwart. I saw the sky and the snow in the same color. The snow-white blizzard was like a note. The howling wind rustled in the snow. The giant double-decker snow country train carrying people and goods departed from the Yanjing supergiant railway station, and then passed through a building. These provinces and cities travel through downtown areas, across large rivers reduced to ice, across mountains and rivers, and then arrive at the Northern Ecological Park. In this scene, all 10 train professors present in the conference room stood up and bowed. Then the 10 professors all looked at the leader of the special research group with amazement. This man really used a short time and amazing orbital technology. Let's start. Ying Ziyue spoke, and Professor Ma Suhei and Zhao Seng bowed. They took the action plan. As the person in charge of the track, they would personally lead the team to start laying the track according to the track. It's 5:30 in the afternoon. In the outskirts of Yanjing. This is the old zoo. Now it has been completely demolished and turned into a flat ground. It was called the entrance of the 5,000-meter underground Great Wall during the Cold War. Now it is also the site of the first train track and the second one. A giant train station. Here, container steel houses have been laid for workers to live in. At the same time, in the largest one, the large-scale container steel house meeting room listed as Action Group, the Yanjing High-Speed Railway Engineering Minister, Shanghai Engineering Minister, and the Train Magnetic Levitation Engineer Zhao Seng of the Special Research Institute, and the Plateau Train Ma Suhei. 4 people are now discuss meeting. At the moment, iron workers from other provinces across the country are still on their way, and there are now 300,000 people. Ma Suhei, 45 years old, personally designed the plateau train, knowing the difficulty of track laying, but now he is holding the track action book. His eyes are full of excitement. Now he has national strength as a support, has a variety of tracks, and is extremely confident. In particular, trucks outside pulled the track, and the geology department began to select the geological line. And now it has begun to hit the foundations of the following trucks. The first step is a large-scale sport of 300,000 people, and then millions, tens of millions. As long as the laying starts, the track laying will be extremely fast. Putting down the track plan, Minister Shanghai and Minister Yanjing looked at the track plan blankly. High-altitude rail transit, huge mountains running through the track. Suspended track, multi-regional terrain track. Got, this guarantees that the track will be laid without problems. Minister Shanghai High-Speed Rail couldn't help but excited. Guarantee to complete the task. Yanjing will go to the Liaohe Sea, then to the Qinghai Island, then the Northwest region, and finally form a closed map track map. 20 days, 40 million railway workers. You can try it. Minister Yanjing checked the plan, then read the plan, and at the same time, read the calculation plan from the logistics department, and finally spoke. Two professors, Ma Suhei and Zhao Xiao, the train crew of the Special Research Center nodded. Complete the snow country train in 1 month. and build a snowstorm city in 1 month. Before the disaster, it is probably planned to be completed. Everyone, let's start. Masuhe said. Boom. The sound of tower cranes, trucks, mixers, rock crushers, and road rollers all starting at the same time. The laying of the first station of the large country track that circumnavigated the country began. Chapter 33. On the evening of the 12th, Ying Ziyue walked home from the Special Research Institute this time at 6 o'clock. It was still dark. Walking on the bustling Yanjing street, some pedestrians were muttering curiously. Recently, the weather has become more and more weird. The sunshine time has decreased, the weather has become more and more sultry, and it is uncomfortable to wear clothes. I heard that it is impossible to observe the moon now. Yes, now I heard that even the plateau cities are getting dark at 8 o'clock. That's Xihai City. It used to be dark at 9:30. Now the direct sunshine time is 1.5 hours late, and the weather is getting worse and worse. The more things are wrong. The two young men smiled bitterly and shook their heads and walked by. There are a lot of people, not just them. Ying Ziyue seems to be a ghost, watching the people's prediction of the next. He stood at the door of a shopping mall casually, with the cold air of the air conditioning inside the door, which was extremely comfortable. It was sweltering natural weather outside the door, and many girls were muttering after someone walked out, "It's too hot, it's getting dark fast. And it's getting hot fast. Maybe it's really going to be the end of the world. Fuck you, it's the weather." Several girls were laughing and joking. Clatter. Ying Ziyue walked by again until he got home at 8:30. Parents are still busy at work. Ying Ziyue makes some meals at will. Recently, he hasn't gone to the civil engineering university for a long time. Before, Ying Ziyue asked for a hypothesis and studied abroad for a period of time. Now he opens the discussion group created by the school at will. The message is still 99+ AS, a well-known civil engineering building and infrastructure university in the country. This school knows more of the country's large-scale projects. For example, at this moment, the current discussion group and academic departments of all departments are discussing a new topic. Because Yanqing started laying train tracks, Yanqing University of Civil Engineering and Architecture also received a new large-scale project forecast, which was a large-scale project notified by the Special Research Institute. At this moment, there was some explosion in the discussion group. 3 department surveying department. Mark Angan, what do you say is the million-scale railway station that the principal said last time? Is it possible to build a million-scale train station, abandon the trains of all provinces across the country, build 1 million train stations, 10 million train stations, and our survey department has a new task, and we have to survey and map every next one. The scale of the city seems not only to start construction on trains, but also to start construction on the city. 1 series infrastructure studies. Jiangxian, your survey department is okay. Our infrastructure department is under great pressure. A million-scale train station is built in Yanjing, among which 10 million-scale train stations are built in the south and north as factory transportation stations. There is also a vegetable, agricultural and food transportation station. I can tell you that once the train can be started, these 3 railway stations can transport vegetables and construction materials across the country, and even the highways on the provincial roads can be cancelled. 3 department engineering design MAPP, let alone this train station is about to start anyway. By the way, are there any students studying abroad? I remember the former schoolmaster Chen Shui went, and he said that foreign countries are much better than domestic ones. A year back. 1 department civil engineering Kinji, previously, the country called on overseas students to return. This guy has been delayed because of a delay. Now he has closed the country. This guy seems to have smelled a major project in our country and is now looking for the principal to return. Clatter. After closing the group, Ying Ziyue leaned against the floor-to-ceiling window in the bedroom, and a smile appeared on the corner of Ying Ziyue's mouth. He had asked the official to gradually mention the super train station plan before, and now it is about to start. The laying of train tracks circling the country. The first station of Yanjing, 1 million train station, was built. However, it's the construction of special energy trains. The last is to run The snow country train mission is completed. It's all started. The long dark night came gradually. Ying Ziyue opened the window. There was no wind, there was only sultry weather, and the radio on the bedside continued to broadcast. Glacier 15, the world's largest glacier, has now melted 3/5, and it is not ruled out that accelerated melting may cause a tsunami in coastal cities. Starting from July 2nd, the global temperature has continued to increase. The average temperature in the east is currently 37.5 degrees. It is currently increasing. Meteorological experts recommend preparing for heat stroke prevention and minimizing going out. Clatter. Then came the noise of the radio. This is Ying Fu's collection, an old-fashioned radio. In the old days, Ying Ziyue also listened to this radio and watched disasters one by one, and each giant city was frozen by ice. It's the same now. From the surface, the traces of the disaster became more and more obvious. At the balcony, Ying Ziyue took a pen and wrote lightly on a piece of scratch paper. The long knife is the snow country train, and the great shield is the wind and snow link city. More than 1 billion people work hard together. Chapter 34. Long dark night. The sultry heat struck. If the residents near the volcano could smell the sulfur, the pungent gas seemed to gush out. For example, in Yanjing, Ying Ziyue can feel that the oxygen in the air is fading. This is normal. Oxygen diminishes because the carbon dioxide in the Earth's air is increasing. On the balcony, Ying Ziyue's gaze seemed to travel through the cities. He could almost guess that, because of the dry weather and the lack of rain, large areas of plant forests in some areas began to dry up, and marine microorganisms began to increase. Plants assimilate less carbon dioxide and less oxygen. In addition, due to the weather, factories are being developed, and a large amount of carbon dioxide is formed by burning various chemical dyes. There are also volcanic tourist areas in the west. It is estimated that the magma below has begun to boil, and even almost half of the volcanoes have erupted. Volcanic eruptions carry a lot of carbon. These eruptive gases contain water vapor, sulfur compounds and carbon dioxide. From the surface, those volcanoes that are still erupting, the hydrogen sulfide and sulfur dioxide gas emitted by these volcanoes enter the atmosphere and begin to transform into aerosols, and then begin to condense into atmospheres, the troposphere and the stratosphere. As a result, the atmosphere is again obscured, the muggy temperature continues, and the sunshine duration will continue to decrease. Call. Ying Ziyue let out a long sigh. As a scholar, witness to history, and chief engineer, all he can do is lead the whole country to survive this disaster. The night is getting darker, and there are fewer people on the road. The current society is still in an era of half waiting for employment. For example, some rural areas are still being renovated, and migrant workers have not yet notified the start. And the white-collar workers in the city, shops, etc. have not even started. Only those large supermarkets, as well as official chain convenience stores, factories, railway workers, started. Ulang Villa is located in the outskirts of Yanjing. The scenery is quite good and the geographical location is also developed. Standing on the balcony of the villa, you can see the beautiful view of half of the city. Under the dark night, some high-rise buildings are just lit up. For the remaining unemployed people, their goal is wind and snow link city. Ying Ziyue opens her mouth quietly, and the tall buildings will disappear. These are simply unable to withstand the glacial cold wave, and the snowstorm alone has caused all the floor heating, air conditioning, electric heating, and heating to freeze. What's more, there is a cold wave group of absolute 0. Responsible and heavy. Call. Long inhalation sound. Calm, not hurried or slow. Let's start with the operation of the train. The operation of the snow country train will provide heat energy. After it is completed, everyone will know that the heat energy of the train operation can dissipate part of the cold wave. They are the most perfect and reasonable layout. Ying Ziyue seemed to be talking to the air, and seemed to be talking to herself. The night was getting hotter, and he returned to the bedroom, and began to enter a stable sleep. Then I won't sleep so peacefully. In my memory, there will be tornadoes, sandstorms, earthquakes, tsunamis, etc. In the past 3 months in the dark night, the bright moon shines directly point, but some pedestrians found that the moon seemed to be no longer so clear. Maybe the gas is blocking it. Maybe it is blocking the dense galaxy. In short, it is no longer clear. Department of Astronomy, Nanjiang Scientific Research Center. It's exactly 1 o'clock at midnight point after the Special Research Institute release. National Universities, Scientific Research and Training Institutes, Unified Learning Infrastructure, and Mechanical Academics. This astronomical center has not changed point, because this is the best astronomical institute in this big country. It is codenamed Sky Astronomical Center at this moment. The geographical environment here is a basin, and a giant sky-eye single aperture radio telescope appeared in front of 3 astronomy professors. This is called 500-meter aperture spherical telescope in the west, which translates to 500-meter spherical coronal active reflection spherical radio telescope. At this moment, several professors are watching the moon point because recently there have been some problems with the observation of the moon point. Professor Mao Xian of astronomy is watching a picture from the stars of the universe point. Weak space signals appeared, pulse signals began to appear, and the astronomical mirror appeared like an eye, showing the moon. An extremely high definition point. Gas appears in the stratosphere, and a large amount of carbon dioxide obstructs the gas layer. Then the moon seemed to be blocked by multiple small galaxies, and the galaxy track entered into a dense galaxy point. Professor Mao Xian's face began to frighten. He attended the previous Crimson Conference, and was also the leader of the astronomy team of the Special Research Institute. He had heard the astronomy prediction from the leader of Ying Ziyue point. When the Earth enters a dense galaxy, the direct line of sight will become less. What's the matter, Professor? A student spoke, and it was also from the astronomy group of the Special Research Institute. I just sigh. The academics of team leader Ying are too terrifying. He only inferred dense galaxies to judge glacial disasters. If it were not for his comprehensive calculations, no country in the world would be able to judge that the ice age would come, because this requires calculations. For a great ice age disaster, it is necessary to calculate the second epoch in detail from 1 million years ago. The difficulty and complexity of it is unimaginable. Professor Mao Xian became more amazed as he spoke, and he couldn't imagine the steps of Ying Ziyue's judgment point. He used the astronomical telescope to judge the dense galaxy, but the man judged the disaster based on geography, astronomy, weather, and history. It's going to change. Professor Mao Xian smiled bitterly, knowing that he saw the dense galaxy with the help of an astronomical telescope, and it was about to change. What are you going to change? The student asked curiously. Other countries will also see dense galaxies from the astronomical station, and they will probably prepare trump cards, but they don't know that it will be the ice age. They only know that the sunshine time will decrease, and the temperature will continue to increase. There is a difference between evildoers and geniuses. The evildoers will lead the times, and the geniuses will predict the first step or open up a new era. Next, the global estimate is no longer the goal of economic development, but all parties will prepare some kind of plan. Professor Mao Xian shook his head and sighed. Then they will prepare for glacier prevention. The student said again. No, they can't do it. It's hard for us as a nation to do it, let alone those free and loose forces. Professor Mao Xian spoke point. In the long dark night, the whole world seemed to realize something at the beginning of the night. It seems like a point. Steam civilization, industrial civilization, information civilization, then economic civilization, and finally become infrastructure prevention civilization. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35. July 13th, 7 o'clock in the morning. Point outside the outskirts of Yanjing. The sound of track laying resounded throughout the night. One by one giant tracks were laying foundations, then laying and digging mountains. Rollers, mixers, and nearly 100,000 railway workers started laying tracks yesterday. Point at this moment, in the number 1 Yanjing engineering zone, Ying Ziyue carried his hands on his back. He followed Zhao Guofeng behind him. the internal and external affairs and others, who were all watching the track laying point. This is the use of multi-head track laying. In front of everyone is a loading line. There are also a track material storage area. The foundation is a track bed that has been tamped, and then the track machine starts to lay section by section point. Then the track center began to transport, unload, place ballast, start track, shift track, tamping, and shape the track bed, and then one after another track starting machines, ballast shaping machines, and tamping machines all started to run. Boom boom boom. This is a really huge track, with a width of 120 meters, almost the height of a 5-story villa, so the amount of work is huge. The warehouse behind the site is unloading trucks. Tracks that are more than 100 meters wide are already human train technology, so they will cause great controversy around the world. Ying Ziyue walked with her hands behind her back, and there was the sound of a tower crane above him, and above his head were racks of goods transporting. This was the material that would build a huge train station next to this track point. It is a hearty enjoyment to walk forward while watching this great project go on. Point. There are railway workers on both sides checking the track while pointing at the 100-meter wide track and shouting in excitement. God, I have never seen such a giant track in my life. I bet that the trains on this track are like a hill, let alone transport people. A single carriage can transport dozens of units. Large truck. Nonsense. This is our country's big country train, with a total of 40 million railway brothers, who are all on their way now. Another worker said with great pride, let's go ahead. This time our project is going to cross seas and mountains, across large rivers, across primitive dense forests, and then surround the country. If the train is completed, we can see the train flying around the country after it runs. I can't even think about the picture. In the material transport area, 4 or 5 railway workers said excitedly, carrying large material barrels. This is the strength of our country. Xiao Guofeng is very proud, because everyone is full of energy, everyone is extraordinarily excited, and everyone is extremely excited and looking forward to it. Ying Ziyue rarely smiled, watching her compatriots build together. This is a real pleasure. Go back to the Special Research Institute, Ying Ziyue said. When the group was about to walk back, the sound of a loud horn sounded at the gate of the fence of the project area. All the railway workers of Jinling high-speed railway train, a total of 150,000 people, came to support the major power projects. Boom. The big horn is commensurate and buzzes non-stop. Point. Then came the manned military vehicles one after another, and the railway workers on the military vehicles got off and saluted. Point. It's not just Jinling, there are trucks and horns ringing behind them. 100,000 railway workers from Zhejiang Train and High Speed Railway are here to support the project of a great country. 150,000 railway workers from Xiancheng Train and High Speed Railway came to support the projects of the great country. With a louder and louder voice, there are truck teams from all over the country. Point. At the gate of the engineering area, Ying Ziyue and Xiao Guofeng, the Minister of Internal Affairs and Foreign Affairs, stood low-key. They watched the engineering team begin to hand over and recorded, and everyone had a smile on their faces. This is Eastern power. Ying Ziyue watched quietly. If he chooses again, he will still choose the power of the whole country to contend, because the people of the East are united. All difficulties and obstacles are fearless. Support the trains of big countries. In the truck line behind, a railway worker took the lead and shouted. Point. Then the sound became louder and louder, shocking a neat point. After staying for 3 hours in the morning, Ying Ziyue personally watched the railway team work together to develop the train tracks. Now Yanjing has reached 1 million railway workers. The distance between Yanjing and Haitian Pass is about 725 kilometers, which is 2% of the laying line. According to this kind of engineering force, it can be dispersed within 3 days at the same time. There are also 39 million engineering teams on their way to the snow country train tracks. For Western trained scientists, this is an advanced giant project, but in the hands of the Eastern Iron Army, it's nothing more than a hard bone. Unite and do the same. Point. The old plateau train tracks were so difficult, and they were not built in blood and sweat. Point. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the Special Research Institute infrastructure building. Point. In the hall, Ying Ziyue had just arrived at the Special Research Institute. Behind him, Zhao Guofeng held a report and reported professionally on the special international scientific research situation. At 5:17 this morning, the United States of Roses and the 17 states opened a special meeting. We infer that the content of the meeting came from the Astronomical Institute of the United States of Roses. At 2 o'clock this morning, Professor Mao Shan, the head of the astronomy team, used the Sky Eye. The telescope discovered that the Earth is in the process of dense galaxies, and it is estimated that the West has also discovered it, and then opened the meeting. There is also a news bulletin issued by the Astronomical Institute of the Northern Council. It seems that the sunshine time will become shorter and the dense galaxy will cause the Earth to enter an anti-high temperature state due to the influence of volcanic eruption and muggy heat. Also wait, almost all countries with good astronomical power have discovered that the Earth has entered a dense galaxy. Zhao Guofeng spoke. He knew what it meant. Next, the West will prepare some whole cards. In addition, several states in the United States of Roses have issued hot crisis warnings, and now the West believes that a hot crisis will happen next. Zhao Guofeng frowned. Ying Ziyue listened and didn't say anything. The West obviously doesn't know the Ice Age, and even if the East announces the Ice Age, they will not believe it. Ying Ziyue used geography, astronomy, prediction of disasters, historical calculations, combined with 1,000,000 years ago, and 4 ice ages proved to be a high-level proof of the glacier at the same time. Not every country has an action call for more than 1 billion people to act at the same time. This is great courage. But this is not important. It can be seen now. Then the information age will end, the technology economy will start to be suspended, and then all countries will join together to enter an infrastructure era. Clatter walking around, looking at the corridors of the infrastructure science building. There are great infrastructure reliefs, miraculous buildings presented in 3D. Ying Ziyue walked step by step. Dongfang now doesn't need to make any statement, just need to build the infrastructure quickly. The train is going to be triumph, and the wind and snow chain city is going to be built. What if the infrastructure era has come? The pace is steady until the conference room of the infrastructure building. On both sides of the meeting room are global maps, various miraculous buildings, and stalwart natural buildings still full of floor-to-ceiling windows. The sun was shining. Ying Ziyue stood in the middle, full of energy and full of energy. Standing majestic, thinking sharply. This is Ying Ziyue at this moment. Some minutes later, he spoke. It's time for the infrastructure construction team to be formed. The city of wind and snow is about to start, and the train stations of tens of millions of scales are also going to act. Zhao Guofeng. Ying Ziyue's voice was the loudest in an instant. Here. Zhao Guofeng, with a brown bear figure, salutes. Notify the principal of NTU. Time will not wait for me. Form an infrastructure team. Yes. The latter was excited. Chapter 36. There are currently 10 academic buildings in the center of the Special Research Institute. Except for infrastructure, there is no team, and each of the remaining buildings has an academic team. Chemistry, machinery, physics, history, technology, etc., as well as trains now is the last team. To add infrastructure. Million train exit station, 10 million train transportation terminal. At this moment, in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, Ying Ziyue is making a sketch, which is the ultimate goal of the infrastructure. Team. Chen Guo, the leader of the geography group, came, and he stood silently in the meeting room watching. Silently. Chen Jiang, the deputy head of the train crew, came and watched quietly. The head of the house watched quietly. Infrastructure is a 4-story building, and the 4th floor is full of floor-to-ceiling windows. Even the ceiling is full of glass panoramic windows. The balcony shines, and the smart drawing tablet hung on the wall starts drawing. Ying Ziyue gave the order, and Zhao Guofeng went to the NTU school to inform the infrastructure team to review the exam questions. Ying Ziyue is drawing one of the biggest commands, and all the team leaders who are present are watching. This is a world where the glaciers originated, and 10,000 years have passed. There began to be traces of human beings, and that was a world where 40% of them were glaciers. This was the Ice Age 1 million years ago. Then it spread quickly to the end of the Ming Dynasty. When the Little Ice Age appeared, disasters occurred everywhere, and the inaction at the end of the Ming Dynasty appeared, and the danger of destruction appeared. Then it spread again, and then until modern times the hot weather appeared, and disasters of various complexity levels appeared. Just like the point of reincarnation. The North and South glaciers are melting at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the giant B-15 glacier, known as the world's largest glacier, has melted by half. Ying Ziyue's drawing skills are very high, and everyone can feel the pressing and oppressive sense of the glacier coming slowly in the hoarfrost. Sunshine came. The ocean began to become anaerobic, and a large number of marine life began to float on the surface of the water. Clatter stopped for a while. This scene was what was happening, and the eyes of the team leaders present changed, solemn and positive. Even trembling Millet. Because of what will happen next. They have combined physics, geography, meteorology, astronomy, and history, and they have deduced hundreds of times, and the final answer is glacier. Ying Ziyue did not continue to write. He began to write the pen on a square land where more than 1 billion people live. The nearly circular elliptical square track is laid, and the black-gray track is laid. Then came the black three-dimensional train, booming. The train is running, generating waves of heat, which are propelled by floating ripples. Clatter. Ying Ziyue put down the pen. He pointed to the middle of the snow country train, turned around and looked at the crowd solemnly, and then spoke. This is the ultimate goal to be accomplished by the whole people, a city linked by wind and snow, step by step, word by word. The steps are elegant and clear. In front of Ying Ziyue, the group leaders of the other academic buildings couldn't help but be amazed. The plan is perfect and the sequence is stunning. The heat generates kinetic energy, and the train can be used as the first barrier, and can also be used to support the transportation of materials. After the glacier it can still survive above the surface. As for the center, everyone can almost imagine that it is a huge snowstorm standing upright. It's huge. It's a brand new construction technology, cold-proof material. The 9 organizations couldn't help but look complicated, or looked at Ying Ziyue in amazement, with excitement in their bright eyes. Now they at least see the final plan of the great power starting today. They are all turned on. Chapter 37. On the 13th, 11 o'clock in the morning. The conference room and the infrastructure building of the Special Research Institute was overcrowded at that time. Professor Mao Shan, the leader of the astronomy team, Professor Chen Guo, the leader of the geography team, Qin Jiang, the deputy leader of the train science, the head of internal and external affairs, and 7 academic team leaders all stood in the conference room. Looking at the great colorful sketches in less than 15 minutes, Zhao Guofeng and told Ying Ziyue to go to the University of Nanta to check the professor of the Department of Infrastructure. After Ying Ziyue left, the nearly 10 professors were still looking at the train sketches with complicated or marvelous eyes. Chen Jiang, deputy head of train studies, couldn't help but sigh. Does the train crew know why there is no team leader? After Chen Jiang spoke, other academic team leaders seemed curious to know that Chen Jiang, the deputy leader, the president of Qinghai University, and a double PhD in physics and mechanics, has published 2 papers that have caused controversy in the world, not just academics. The ability is extremely high, and the personal reputation is also extremely strong, because the train group and the infrastructure group are the top priority. One of these 2 groups serves as snow country train and the other serves as a large-scale ice river project. The selection of personnel is extremely high. The team leader must have advanced thinking and crazy suggestions. Chen Jiang, deputy train leader, said that the more and more lamented, because the current train track laying is in an orderly manner. 40 million railway workers across the country are divided into 8 track points and started laying at the same time. In the previous satellite images, the 120-meter wide orbit is like a long river, and huge train stations will also be built. Only the most difficult and greatest train in history is left to start, so it is conceivable that you must be a super special train learning genius to be the team leader. You don't know the extent to which the train will eventually reach earthquake resistance, tsunami resistance, absolute resistance, 0 degrees. While talking, Chen Jiang pointed to the colored drawing in the conference room. It was a train traveling around the country. Looking at the train, Chen Jiang seemed to have that scene in his mind. The earthquake shakes, that tsunami screams, the train gallops. Therefore, it is conceivable that the assessment level of the formation of the infrastructure group is more difficult. At 12 o'clock in the morning, in Hall 2 of the Infrastructure Department of NTU University, in the hall at this moment, 25 infrastructure professors and engineering directors were sitting quietly. At the door, Zhao Guofeng was introducing the list with the name list. Group leader Ying. There are designers of Shanghai's #1 skyscraper, designers of the Guangcheng Twin Towers, designers of the Great Wall of Hengdian Film and Television City, and designers of an 80-meter surrounding building in Beijing. The Bird's Nest designer, and 4 PhDs from the Infrastructure Research Institute. In short, there are 25 people, all of whom are truly excellent in theory and practice. Here are the top infrastructure engineers in my country, Zhao Guofeng said. It is necessary to know that the screening of train science is divided into multiple screenings by universities and railway engineering personnel, including the screening of magnetic levitation and plateau train talents. Then the selection of infrastructure is more difficult. The first is the top level of theory, and the second is the top level of infrastructure. It is necessary to test that the buildings designed by him must have the world's top level. It can be said that these 25 people almost represent the highest level of infrastructure in the East. Distribute 3D glasses and open this panoramic simulation video. Ying Ziyue spoke. He had prepared the infrastructure examination questions before. After entering the hall, everyone began to wear glasses, and then the lights in the classroom began to dim, and at the same time the lights became completely dark. Click. As the picture began to play, a dynamic 3D picture appeared. This was an extremely great picture. The first scene was a sandstorm from the north of Haitian Pass. This is almost a great way to see nature from the perspective of a survivor in the eyes of all examiners. The screening appeared to be a huge train station. The train station was 10 stories high, covering an area of 80 basketball courts, and saw a large amount of dust and a large amount of sand from the ground, accompanied by strong winds. It is blown into the near surface layer to form a sand-laden storm, and then a large amount of dust and fine particles form a high-altitude storm. This is the sandstorm coming hundreds of meters high. The sky and the earth are discolored, and they are starting to attack this train station. At this moment, the examiner only felt that the sky was filled with yellow mist, and the sand was falling like rain from the sky. This was one of the predictions before the disaster. Due to the severe drought that followed, the train station was facing a bowl-shaped sandstorm. Boom. The moment of the yellow sand attack was accompanied by the hum of the train. At this moment, all the examiners saw a horrible scene. How terrifying is their mission of this infrastructure team? In the sandstorm, inside the train station, a giant black train began to hum and gallop, howling shockingly. At the same time, the screen switched to a vast tsunami coming from the Liaohe, and then rushing towards the train station building. A flood of more than 10 meters high swept the gravel, sharp iron fragments, and so on. The precision of the picture is extremely high. It was produced overnight by the National Film and Television Academy. In the picture, the flood smashed into the train station. Boom. Not only floods collided in waves, but also earthquakes. The violent and savage shaking sound almost trembles on the ground, and the rose of Chentuzeng. The violent shaking sound resounded. The train station building was shaking frantically, and terrible cracks appeared on the surface of the building. In floods, earthquakes, sandstorms, trains galloping, train stations stand. Boom. At the end of the screen, 25 people took off the 3D glasses. Everyone was almost sweating and looked shocked or horrified. In the hall, it is still monitoring and recording the subtle expressions and status of individuals. Then look through the materials and compare theories. But the professors who show fear and the traditional engineering of personal academic existence are directly eliminated. Click. The hall lights came on, and after 10 minutes, Zhao Guofeng took the list and began to read. Zhao Chen, Sunji, Liu Yang, Ma Shuo and Zhao Guofeng read a total of 15 names. This is the elimination list. The 15 people all had complex expressions. They all knew how they had reacted just now. They were desperate and fearful before the disaster, and they chose to wait for death. As 15 people walked out of the hall, Zhao Guofeng spoke again. Next, you will start the final assessment, which will be carried out by the special research team leader personally. Remember that the infrastructure team only recruits to top level elites this time, because this team is extremely difficult. After Xiao Guofeng finished speaking, he walked out of the hall. At this moment, the hall was extremely silent. Some of the remaining 10 people are middle-aged, and some are even in their 50s. Everyone's expression has become dignified. What is the implication of this assessment? It's not enough to build a train station that can withstand earthquakes, tsunamis, and sandstorms. This is actually not the final assessment. What is the final assessment? Or what is the level of infrastructure buildings for the train station? This is a middle-aged man with curly hair. He once designed the first skyscraper in Shanghai, but now he understands a few words from the exam questions. Train stations must resist small-scale tsunamis, small-scale seismic belt impacts, sandstorms, and this is only an initial defense point. What to resist next? The infrastructure team will not only build train stations, but also great buildings. An engineering professor frowned. I only know what to resist next. The disaster is over, and there is nothing more terrible than the disaster. This is the pinnacle of the infrastructure era. The designer of the Guangcheng Twin Towers smiled bitterly. Click. As the assessment began to sound, everyone's complexion changed, and the lights in the hall dimmed again. The panoramic screen has changed. The first is that there are 4 silver white fonts. Glacier Chill. Chapter 38. Chill. Cold. Even with the panoramic screen, the examiner can feel the immersive sense of oppression. Boom. At the beginning of the picture, the first scene appeared in everyone's eyes as a magnificent picture to the extreme. Spectacular. Everything turned into blizzard and frost. The first wave of cold from the southern glacier was mixed with a typhoon in the Pacific, and then it raged all over with howling. So blizzard is falling all over the world. This is a real blizzard. Any building is drenched in heavy rain. The 10-meter examiners looked at this scene with horror like a god. European style buildings and rice style buildings are being submerged. Southern glacier. The melting glacier once again condenses. This is a scene that can be achieved by reaching absolute zero. The ocean. The flowing ocean began to stand still. Starting from the bottom of the sea. Seaweeds, reefs, fish, and microorganisms all began to postpone their actions. Frost is coming. Click. Layers of ice began to be laid, and the ocean began to change. Pale blue, pale white, and then became a giant glacier ocean structure. Like a call. Other kingdoms have also changed. White frost swept and covered. Then the cold wave from the north and south glaciers became bigger and began to hit every place. Anything that has been reached has turned into ice sculptures. 40% of the world's speed visible to the naked eye. The oceans and large rivers have once again become glaciers, just like the second epoch, the Ice Age, 1 million years ago. Then there is the east. The train was galloping, resounding loudly. Then the cold wave came. What is a cold wave? In the appraiser's impression, the world's minus limit is minus 70 degrees, which is the limit of mankind. But at this moment they saw a horrible scene. The lowest temperature in thermal energy appeared. Minus degrees. However, absolute zero only lasts for a few seconds under the cold wave. But in the context of thermodynamics, in an environment of absolute zero, then all thermal motion will stop. At this moment, the train was galloping, and everyone saw the most horrifying scene in history. The movement of these particles is reduced to a minimum. There is no matter movement in the space, and no heat is generated. Absolute zero for 10 seconds. This kind of nebula has ever appeared in the coldest place in the universe. The train galloped, and it started to emit ripples, which is to dissipate the first layer of surface temperature. The cold wave weakened a bit, and then continued to postpone its advance, covering coastal cities and plateau cities. Then there are inland cities. Those inland cities, the so-called warm cities, the so-called high-rise buildings, the so-called floor heating is instantly frozen. The glass is instantly broken. The air is covered with frost, and some of the ground is frozen and cracked. The flowing water was directly frozen, and the plants in the ecological garden became beautiful ice sculptures covered in frost. Underground, the people in the houses on the ground did not have time to react. Their whole bodies were directly frozen, and the epidermis was condensed with a layer of frost. One area is covered. The tall buildings turned silvery white, which was the color of frost. The sky was dark and cloudy, and the air was thin. With every breath, It seemed as if the internal organs had sucked in the frost point. Individuals of these examiners had pale faces directly, and they couldn't bear this kind of immersive pressure. Ying Ziyue watched quietly. This is just a panoramic simulation he made according to his impressions. The real cold wave is a bit more terrifying than this. Zhao Guofeng also watched, his eyes solemn. Only when he felt a little bit in person would he know why the whole country must contend. Click. The video stops. At the end of the video, the examiner saw the last scene. Some goddesses from the United States of Roses turned into ice sculptures, and some iron towers from the Eagle Kingdom turned into ice sculptures, and the #1 skyscraper in Shanghai turned into a vertical ice sculpture, spotlessly clean and extremely beautiful. There is also Guangcheng. As a first-tier city, the high-rise buildings here have become the most beautiful ice sculptures, and a blackbird's nest in Yanjing has become silvery white, and the rivers will be completely frozen. There was only one snow country train still running on the track in the sky, and the train station reduced to frost. It's the same as it's still. Only the trains that keep going around the country are left. The trains cannot be stopped or opened, or they will be instantly frozen. You can only continue to drive, maintain the temperature, and maintain the heat. The screen closed. Ying Ziyue sighed. This is the reason why the wind and snow chain city was built. This is also the reason why the whole people built it. In the hall, 8 engineers spontaneously bowed to the podium and then chose to eliminate them. Because they knew that their next task was to build this kind of city. They didn't have confidence, so they chose to quit. In the end, only 2 middle-aged engineers with slightly trembling hands were left in the hall. In the hall, they were talking excitedly. No wonder the train plan has begun. The snow city must be built. Otherwise, a single train can only survive a part of the people. Then the order here will collapse. Only the city of wind and snow can guarantee that the whole people resist disaster. It's too great. The person who designed this prediction of disaster is too great, and the project is too horrible. He predicted earthquakes and tsunamis. Now Haitian Pass has started a sandstorm. He is in the real layout. Both of them were talking excitedly. Ying Ziyue stood quietly, not hurriedly, and then walked out of the hall. Zhao Guofeng introduced it behind him. One named Rocco, the designer of skyscrapers, and one named Ziyue Yan, designed the Twin Towers, which are listed as internationally renowned buildings. Clatter on the podium in the hall. Ying Ziyue was standing, and the two of them also stood up at the same time. Hello everyone. At noon, welcome you to join the infrastructure team. I'm Ying Ziyue, chief engineer of Wind and Snow Chain City, and I'm also organized by the Special Research Institute. Welcome to join. Ying Ziyue spoke with a clear voice, and the eyes of the two people in the hall changed drastically, before looking at Ying Ziyue with a trace of admiration and surprise. They couldn't believe that this disaster layout, the identity of this Special Research Institute, would actually be the young boy in front of them. Leader Ying, when the project starts, time will not wait for me. Ziyue Yan said, starting today, the first task of the infrastructure construction team is to build millions, 10 million train stations. Ying Ziyue spoke, decisively and simply. Starting from the train station until the giant city of snow and wind. The two stood up straight and then bowed. This is a tribute to Ying Ziyue's academic worship. Chapter 39. 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the 13th. Yanjing National Research Center, the infrastructure design building, is known as the highest level meeting room of S+1 in my country. An infrastructural conference called Tens of Millions Train Stations has started. This is a large-scale engineering conference room of 800 square meters. The reliefs on the walls are large-scale stadiums of various countries. From the America Stadium to the Bird's Nest Stadium, there are many types of relief construction projects in the meeting room. It is not only Ziyue Yan, the designer of the Twin Towers of the Special Research Infrastructure Group, but also the skyscraper designer Rocco. There are also 10 national-level engineers in scientific research infrastructure, and close to 20 national and provincial-level large-scale engineering chief designers. For example, the Provincial 5S Scenic Area Designer, the Large-Scale River Diversion Designer, and even the chief designer of the Yellow River Water Conservancy project are also here. There are close to 40 people in the conference room. This is a finalization meeting of the top domestic train station plan. After the finalization, the total number of workers waiting for employment in my country is close to 500 million. Once the project is started, they can be divided into 10 major batches, and then the first batch is divided into 3 regions, namely the Yanjing million-scale train station and the Southern Factory, 10 million train stations, and the Northern Ecological Park 10 million train stations. As long as the plan is finalized, the 3 train stations can be carried out at the same time. In front of Ying Ziyue, he was sitting in the main seat. In front of him, he was basically a middle-aged bald professor dressed in suits and leather shoes. The wall was a grey-white relief, which looked solemn and majestic. Ying Ziyue stood up lightly, and everyone else looked at the young man in front of them with complicated eyes. There are too many words to describe him. The chief engineer of track laying around the country, the special research team leader who started the infrastructure era, now has a new label, the chief designer of the world's largest train station. It can be said that many of the world's largest and first projects and plans have emerged from this young man before him. Now the whole audience is watching Ying Ziyue. Everyone, what do you suggest about the train station? Ying Ziyue asked. I think the Maracana Stadium design can be adopted. As the world's first stadium, this stadium can accommodate 200,000 people. It was built in the 1990s for nearly 20 years. This is a successful typical architectural project. Columns. A geotechnical professor at the Scientific Research Institute opened his mouth. I suggest to refer to the technology of the Guangzhou Super Railway Station, which has more than 50 birds' nests. Once completed, it will be the world's first station, said a Guangzhou Railway Station designer from the Research Institute. Ying Ziyue watched quietly. That's why he started to create an infrastructure team. Because these are all conventional plans. Maracana was an old stadium in the 90s, and it is now the end of the 30-year information age. As for the Guangcheng Railway Station, the goal of these trains is to transport provincial level materials, and those train stations are not even worth 500,000. Boom. Without any hesitation, Ying Ziyue stood up directly. Everyone, you probably don't know what the Snow Country train has to bear. Ying Ziyue stood up straight, her back straight. The Yanjing train plan is as follows. The foundation is laid on an area of 3 million square meters. The compound arched 3-story building is used. You can carry people and things. When you leave the station, Nanjiang Research Institute will make large-scale insulation layers, insulation fabrics, and insulation checkpoints, and then pace the train station. As for the city of Yanjing, it will be attached to this train station. While Ying Ziyue was talking, the simulation video behind the projection was opened. This is a double-layered thick arched building, which is also the barrier for the city of Yanjing to defend against the northern cold wave. Under the projection, everyone saw a truly huge 1 million. The train station is like a supergiant Great Wall, almost half of which obscures Yanjing. Above the wall is a composite energy absorbing board, which can store heat energy and resist the cold wave. Then the deafening sound resounded, and the gates of the train station began to open and close. The doors opened and closed. The roar of the train resounded with shock. Then it drove out of the wind and snow, spread in the severe cold weather, and then drove into the Northern Ecological Train Station, which is an even larger scale train station, with tens of millions of train stations, and almost 1/5 of the vegetable farming ecological park in the north surrounds this block train station. Then the army from Yanjing got off the train, and then the train continued to travel to the Southern Factory train station, bringing vegetables and food, and then from the south to Yanjing, and then continued to transit around provinces. As for other provinces, established material transportation is fully enclosed temperature isolated pipeline, which can automatically transport grain and food from the pipeline. Boom. Then the screen closed, and in the meeting room, 40 engineers still had breathtaking expressions on their faces. This time, the 3 train stations and the leaders of the transportation pipeline master plan of the provinces are handed over to the members of the infrastructure team, Zhuo Yan, Luo Ken, and higher-level engineers. This is a national plan. We hope you can help. Ying Ziyue tidied his tie gracefully, then bowed and clasped his fists coolly. This represents entrustment, and also represents belief. Boom. In the meeting room, 40 other people also bowed at the same time. 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Mika, Zihai, all platform official, including the official 3 train stations in the north and south, release announcements at the same time. Special Research Institute. Yanjing, Northern Ecological Park, Southern Factory Center, and the construction plan of the main train station began. Picture. Train station orbit line that goes around the country. At this moment, domestic engineering, but all the netizens related to engineering, have exploded. At the same time, it was officially announced that the first batch of migrant workers were unemployed, and the Nanjiang Research Institute was unemployed. The beginning of each signal signifies that the infrastructure construction steps are accelerating. Under the message, it became more and more shocked. Chapter 40. It's 6:50. In the Yulong Villa community, Ying Ziyue is standing in the bedroom. Next to him is the sunshine record sheet. This is a table he made to record the hours of sunshine every day, from the original 7:58 to 6:50. The sky is getting dark, completely dark, and the sunshine time is reduced by 1 hour. Take out the scientific research temperature table. The temperature began to rise sharply, and now the average temperature has reached 39 degrees. The area close to the equator reached more than 45 degrees, and even the official first level heat warning was activated. As the earth enters a dense week, the volcanic eruption is ended, and the continuous improvement is already recognized news globally. Ying Ziyue's gaze was torch. He looked at the northern suburbs of Yanjing, where the track was laid. There are now 300,000 people who are laying the tracks in a pattern, and nearly 800 miles have been completed. Then his eyes changed again. The starting point of the track was a Yanjing train station. At this moment, it is estimated that the foundation excavator has started, foundation work has started, and the train stations in the south and north have also started. After turning off the news and turning off the radio, Ying Ziyue called Zhao Guofeng. The last step begins. On the other end of the phone, simply and decisively, she hung up after receiving it, and Ying Ziyue went back to the living room. It was rare that her parents left work early. Sitting in the living room at home, the parents are looking at the form. This is what they are responsible for, such as the urban infrastructure evacuation plan. Midnight. Pour a cup of tea for my dad. Now your dad is very busy at work. The surveying and mapping team has completed surveying and mapping all the buildings and roads in every city in the country. Our current job is to transport materials to cities across the country. Father Ying said proudly. He knew from his work that every city had to break ground, and it was an enjoyment to personally participate in such a large project. Ying Ziyue seconded with a smile, complimenting Dad by the way, and then poured tea. The long and sultry night is only the beginning. For many industrial machinery institutes in Nanjiang, a super mission has come. Nanjiang, as the most prosperous region in the middle of the north and south, is home to numerous industrial institutes, scientific research institutes, machinery institutes, scientific research experimental bases, centers and so on. At this moment, in the north area of Nanjiang River, the second North Mechanical Research Center. This is agricultural machinery, as well as a large-scale machinery research center. At this moment, an emergency assembly meeting is going on here. In the conference room, every mechanical professor arrived in the conference room quickly. In the main position, the director of mechanical professors Zhao Gang looked solemnly. Everyone, the Special Research Institute issued an order just now. All the mechanical institutes stopped researching and all went to Yanjing to start implementing a super mechanical plan. In the conference room, other mechanical professors couldn't help frowning. Stop mechanical research and carry out a mechanical plan. What kind of plan is this? Stop the current research. I guess it is related to the next major project. All mechanical tasks are stopped. Don't say anything. All must arrive at the Yanjing National Research Institute tomorrow night. Director Zhao Gang said. This scene is just the beginning. In the Beihai community of the north area, at this moment, in an unremarkable living room of the community, a family of 3 was eating. The man answered a phone call, then put down the cell phone directly, and his expression became highly solemn. What's wrong? The housewife asked her husband. Zhao Chen has a solemn expression. He is a senior professor at the Nanjiang Institute of Machinery, and is responsible for large-scale engineering of foreign machinery. At this moment, He watched his children and his wife speak solemnly. "Give me my luggage. The Special Research Institute has made a big plan. Stop the current machinery research. All go to Yanjing." "What the hell is going on here?" The housewife couldn't help but nervously asked. "Don't ask. Now every machine shop has stopped, and the state has arranged the car for us, and then the big project will start urgently." Zhao Chen said anxiously. At this moment, Nanjiang Machinery Center and Industrial Research Institute began to make official announcements one by one. Nanjiang First Machinery Institute. Due to the instruction of the National Special Research Institute, the Institute of Machinery temporarily suspended research work. Nanjiang Industrial Machinery Institute. Due to special instructions, the BP and Industrial Machinery Institute stopped mechanical research. Many mechanical institutes and industrial institutes have stopped their research projects at hand, and at the same time high-speed trains have been launched, and batches of mechanical professors and industrial professors have begun to go to Yanjing overnight. At 11 o'clock in the evening, this news appeared in the MEGA 20th Hot Search. Hot Search 20 National Institute of Machinery stopped the hot search. Content is stopped one by one, and the content going to Yanjing at the same time seems to be a large-scale project. There are not many comments this time, because there are too many big powers now. But everyone has a hunch that the study of mechanical cessation seems to be the beginning of certain eras. Chapter 41. 7 o'clock in the morning. Northern suburban track. Accompanied by Ying Ziyue was Zhao Guofeng, and the two of them were sitting in a red flag bulletproof car as the car stopped. The two looked at the foundation work of the train station in front of them. Boom boom boom. In front of the two people, the first glance was that excavators were digging the base, and trucks were unloading, all of which were steel bars, iron plates, iron blocks, and so on. 10 tower cranes are all being installed. Now the first step excavator for the foundation has begun. The foundation to be determined is 3 million square meters. Almost all the trees in the northern suburbs have been cut down, and nearly 10,000 excavators have started work. In front of the foundation of this train station, there is a 100-meter wide track that has basically been laid. Railroad workers are now carrying out the last step of overhauling the tracks. It took half an hour to check the foundation by car, which shows that this train station is huge. Team leader Ying, Yanjing train, Southern Industrial Zone train, and Northern Ecological Zone train have all begun to lay the foundation. Tonight, Nanjiang is approaching thousands of mechanical industrial engineers and professors who will come to Yanjing. Zhao Guofeng reported. Call. Ying Ziyue let out a long sigh, her air expression relaxed. At this moment, in Ying Ziyue's mind, the perfect step appeared. The track was laid perfectly and quickly, and the foundation of the train station began. Mechanical research is stopped, and the train plan can be started. It is July 14th, 7:30 in the morning. There are still 76 days before the glacier. At present, the snow country train plan has been completed 2/3, and the train can run at high speed. When it is in place. Then it's all started. As the Hanqi special car arrived at the research institute, Ying Ziyue went directly to the infrastructure meeting room to start the meeting. The two members have already been responsible for the construction of the train station. Only the Chief of Internal Affairs Zhao Guofeng and Ying Ziyue are left, and the Chief of Internal Affairs who is responsible for work reporting arrangements. The sun was still scorching hot. Zhao Guofeng stood upright. Under the piercing eyes, Ying Ziyue spoke. It's time, not only to stop mechanical research, but also to stop in the city. The Internal Affairs issued a call for urban demolition and relocation of all houses in the city. At the same time, it was carried out according to the area to ensure order. A large number of temporary simple residences were prepared. Except for the suburbs, all high-rise buildings in the city were demolished. While talking, Ying Ziyue pointed her finger at the municipalities directly under the central government of each province, and the remote counties. This is a complete overthrow. There are still 76 days left, and the number of convertible migrant workers who are unemployed can be maintained at more than 1 billion. This is also a truly national mega project, involving a total of nearly 2 billion people across the country. From now on, buildings in every city must be constructed in strict accordance with the standards that can withstand cold waves. At the same time, Temperature insulation layers must be laid in the city, and temperature insulation cloths must be laid on the periphery, as well as large pulsating temperature insulation devices. In addition, each city has to build a temperature isolation wall, solar storage panels, artificial sun, underground ecological reservoirs, transportation pipelines and so on. This is a new city for mankind. Why did it evolve from the age of technology, the age of information, and then to the age of infrastructure? That is because of national demolition, new urban construction, and new thermal barrier city walls. After that, human cities will have walls with the appearance of ancient buildings, huge temperature insulation devices, and dispersal devices that can maintain artificial solar technology for a short period of time. This is what defines the great era of infrastructure. Receive. This time it was the sound of Zhenji Beijing's real trembling millet. Zhao Guofeng's face flushed with excitement. Almost. Why does the snow country train gallop? Everything is for the wind and snow city. What is the power of the whole country? Demolishing the whole people, rebuilding the giant city, and being able to personally create this kind of infrastructure era. This will tremble with excitement for anyone. Next will be the real nationwide infrastructure boom. Glacier Chronicles. Since July 2nd, 203, the Snow Country Train project was launched. From July 14th, the Wind and Snow Chain City project was launched. Later generations will call it the early stage of the infrastructure era, the era of human ice and snow civilization, the third epoch ice age. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42. July 15th. There are still 30 days away from the continuous earthquake in coastal and plateau cities. There are 65 days before the glacier. 10 o'clock in the morning. National Real Estate Bureau. From now on, the National Demolition Plan is launched. In order to promote the national plan, the Chief of the Internal Affairs and the Special Research Team leader issued a statement proposing the National Demolition and National Construction Plan to create a stronger and larger national plan. The National Real Estate Bureau is just the beginning, and the order is to be distributed in batches in all provinces, municipalities, and counties. Then the provincial inspection team began to prepare temporary residential houses, material preparations, and demolition in batches. Beicheng is located in the south and is a small tourist city. This city also has the top 3 engineering construction universities in the country. At the moment, today is Sunday. In the university's engineering construction discussion hall, 10 students from the construction department gathered spontaneously. The topic of their discussion this time was the demolition of the whole people. The leader is a white-haired young man named Zhangbo, a native of Beicheng. His hair has been white since he was a child. It is said that he lacks essential substances. Since he was a child, Zhangbo has shown excellent construction and design capabilities, but he has not graduated yet. Participate in the official Special Research Institute infrastructure assessment. Otherwise you will definitely have the opportunity to enter the Special Research Institute. Now Zhangbo stands upright, and he holds more detailed demolition materials in his hand at the same time. Zhangbo also watched the heated discussions of some netizens eating melons on the internet. Really demolished? Are those old houses demolished? The old houses that affected the train, it's demolished, and after living for 18 years, I finally waited until the old house was demolished. Long live the great country. Randomly glanced, Zhangbo shook his head helplessly. This is not the demolition of those old houses, Zhang. We all understand that it is the national demolition instruction issued by the state real estate. I think it is for the better implementation of the train plan. After all, the train is going around the country, and certain areas of the country will definitely be large-scale demolition. A female student wearing high-power glasses spoke up. It's not that simple. If I didn't guess, it's the whole country, every city in a province, every county, except for the suburbs. Every city will be demolished, and new houses will be built uniformly. Zhangbo said, his voice was solemn, and there was a hint of surprise. Fuck, at the table, the other Zuba couldn't help screaming, are you kidding? Demolished nationwide. All houses demolished. Female Zuba couldn't help But speak. Zhangbo smiled bitterly, and he stretched out his hand. To confirm. The first is not only the State Real Estate Bureau, but also the official accounts of every province and every city in the country. At the same time, engineering teams across the country and rural migration orders also appeared. Look at it. Before it was a coastal city, and the plateau cities have migrated. Now the city and the countryside are demolished and moved to a most suitable place for construction, and then the wall is built. If I'm not mistaken, the next wall will start to be built. Inside the wall is a stalwart city. The icons made by Zhangbo are very detailed. He made a detailed record of each city, and then began to record. Then after forming, the picture became a series of provinces and cities all arranged neatly, and then formed a square. According to the sketch of the big country train, the train will move around on the side of the square. Click. After finishing the sketches, the schoolmasters were stunned. They began to check the official news of various places, and at the same time check the news of the engineering team's trend, and finally confirmed the plan. Oh my god, the city, the countryside, the whole building is torn down, the housing budget for more than 1 billion people is built, and the normal supply is guaranteed. I only heard about this educated youth plan, to go to the countryside in the 1980s, and the whole people support the construction. The female student smiled bitterly. Next, you will see stronger, more than 1 billion people start to build together. Mabo scratched his white hair, and then smiled. Chapter 43. In the morning, Ying Ziyue did not go to the Special Research Institute, but started making plans for the city of ice and snow at home. In the living room, a great rooster map is hung on the wall. On the sofa, Ying Ziyue leaned lazily against the wall, while his hands were drawing graphics. After all, the big country's plan is too big at this moment, covering all provinces in the country. If you can take a quick picture process, that is, the whole people will demolish and construct at the same time. The accumulated materials can pile up a Mount Everest. Langma. However, our country is a big infrastructure country, which is why Ying Ziyue dares to try at this moment. On the sofa, Ying Ziyue tapped the keyboard crisply and slowly, simulating the arrival of ice in her mind, drawing a 3D structure of a city from the inside to the outside. As for the living room, Ying Ziyue's father did not go to work. Today is a day off. He is holding a report form in his hand, and his expression is tangled. Cough cough cough. Midnight. Come over and have some tea. Ying's father spoke. Sitting on the balcony, the father and son were drinking tea. Father Ying looked solemnly, and then looked at Ying Ziyue with a casual tone. By the way, you read the notice issued by the State Administration of Real Estate. What is the National Demolition Plan? He spoke casually. And Ying Ziyue seemed to mention it casually, but Ying Ziyue's expression was complicated, and he couldn't help but feel helpless. Obviously his father was the real estate department and he wanted to ask for his own opinions, but he could not reveal the official deep level information plan. I know. Ying Ziyue showed a Zuba face. What do you think of the national demolition? Just imagine that the whole country promotes a big plan, such as the train plan. Because of the train plan, 40 million railway workers across the country started, such as the station plan. Because the train station plan started with nearly 10 million workers across the country. You said if it is a demolition plan, the nationwide project starts. Every city starts new construction. Every building is torn down, except for vegetable farmers. Factory personnel continue. All the rest of the people join the demolition plan. All trucks transport materials. National demolition and construction. What do you think is feasible? Cough cough cough. Ying's father cleared his throat. He is a senior in Yanjing real estate and is loyal to the country, but at the moment there is no plan for the plan, so he mentioned it vaguely and then asked his Zuba son. You should know that Ying Ziyue has excellent insights into the civil engineering room since she was young, so Ying father asked subconsciously. Ying Ziyue supported her chin, then pursed her mouth, her expression returning to her normal color. He didn't speak, but first opened a certain audio and video with a smile. The video opens, and the title of the homepage is all like this. Yanjing Liberty District, Huaba Villa District began to be demolished, working hard for the national project. Shanghai skyscraper villa is about to be demolished. I will serve the country without any regrets. Opening this video, I saw that the background was the most prosperous villa area in Shanghai. In front of the villa, a group of people stood upright and then saluted the camera with a loud voice shouting, "The demolition of a great country. I will wait for the full cooperation. Serve the country. No regrets in this life. Nanjiang Chengsang village. No regrets for demolition." This is a village in the city, which is quite chaotic, but in front of the village in the city, ordinary people in different clothes shouted at the same time, "Work hard for the country. I have no regrets." There is also the most popular video, which is the poorest place in the northwest point. It is called Zillion County and it is located in the yellow sand area point, but at this moment, a person from the county seat is holding a banner written "Support the Great Power Project." Click point. After closing the video, Ying Ziyue looked at her father again and then solemnly spoke, "Dad, in the 1980s, my country used to be a nationwide infrastructure, planting, construction, and steel making. Tens of thousands of people were eating a big pot of rice. Work together and build together. Now our country is closed. The whole people are waiting for jobs. Industry and agriculture maintain the cycle of industrial agriculture system. A large number of workers. A large number of construction teams. There are trains that are about to take shape. And there is one mind. So, what can't be done?" After Ying Ziyue spoke, Father Ying couldn't help but clenched his fists, being rendered by that strong aura. "That's right. What can't be done?" In the living room, Ying Ziyue went back to the bedroom. Only Ying's father was watching the community members under the tall buildings arranging work. The street is still normal, still high-rise buildings, but the sound of the bulldozer is not far away. Holding the form tightly, Ying's father assumed his vigorous posture again. Chapter 44. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. Western Twitter, all the news on the tubing, was swept away. The disaster news is refreshed. The major engineering news was refreshed. There is only one news spot left: Oriental National Demolition Project. At the same time, the content of the news video is a report from Eastern citizens one by one, supporting the demolition projects of major countries. When Western netizens saw this kind of thing for the first time, they were a little dazed. At this moment, it is located in an Uncle Tom's bar in Mars, United States of America. A group of white people drinking breakfast milk was stunned. They watched the video played in the center of the bar. "God, what a huge project is going to be started in the East, starting the demolition of the whole people. Is this going to knock down all the buildings and start again?" A middle-aged black man with a red nose asked. "Tom, their miracles are much more than that." This is a white college doctor wearing gold wire glasses. After he spoke, many other strong men in the bar also sighed. "Yes, demolition by the whole people. What is this going to do? God, the amount of this project is really too big." Located next door to Mars State is Chinatown, which is the street with the most Chinese style. It's morning, and you can see various shops on this street, such as Lao Yanjing fried noodles, Lao Yanjing fried belly, Sichuan and Sichuan fragrant hot pot restaurants, and so on. At this moment, in the private room of the Sichuan and Sichuan hot pot restaurant, a group of international students who have not returned are also watching the YouTube news in the private room. As the news video started, I saw the news reported by the host of the East in the video, and then switched to other videos. Those videos were all close. They were people from all over the country. They were all standing in their villas and houses, wait for the front, and then shouted loudly to support the national demolition plan. This scene is so great that people can't help but feel a little enthusiastic about it. Allah is here. We didn't go back. What is Dongfang's plan? A fat student couldn't help taking off his eyes and said in a daze, "Great plans, trains, train stations, and now the whole people are demolished and relocated." All of this started after the establishment of the Special Research Team. An overseas student in a suit smiled bitterly. Now they seem to feel it, and they seem to have missed something. Missed the opportunity to embark on a great power train. At this moment, there are a lot of scenes like this one, because the national demolition plan in the East has caused extremely high enthusiasm in the West. The United States of Roses, here is also known as the first white state in ancient Indian languages, which means that there are many white people here, and the population density is relatively high point at this moment. In the center of this state, there is a major power defense center integrating self-defense, national security defense, and international investigation point at this moment. In the conference room of the defense center, there are individual identity cards hanging point. There are nearly 30 people including Zart, the Massachusetts economist, and Jack, the chief designer of the Met-Gal Architectural Association. They are all PH. Sitting in the main seat was Merrick, who was a burly lieutenant colonel. At this moment, he turned on the projection, and it was a video of the Eastern train, the station, and the demolition of the whole people. How do you see the big project in the East, or what is this big project? Merrick spoke. I guess it is moving towards some mechanical era. I'm Eddie, a mechanical engineer. The universities in the East have changed into machinery, industry, and infrastructure, plus the recent large-scale projects. Moving forward in the new mechanical era. Dr. Mechanic Eddie said. Point clatter in the conference room. Someone stood up directly. This is the Massachusetts economist Zart, who stood straight. Point da. This is the sound of leather shoes, written in the eyes of everyone. Zate walked to the main seat, and he spoke solemnly. Gentlemen, do you know what the Eastern train can do? It can transport materials for tens of millions of people in a province. This is a huge train with a width of 100 meters. You can imagine a large passenger plane. This is the wide body of a passenger plane. As for the length, it will be thousands of times longer than that of a passenger plane. Materials and energy for one province have been transported. Moreover, all academics of all people, colleges and universities have become infrastructure. Industry seems to be preparing for the mechanical age. Coupled with the construction of the next train station, the nationwide demolition means that it may be the last step of the project. I don't know what will happen after this project. What happened? Having said that, there is almost no need to say anything. Zad almost took a long breath. Point in the meeting room. At this moment, the other doctors realized that the Eastern train was so terrible. Their project really wants to change the world. Mechanic Dr. Reddy has said that. The other doctors hardly need to guess. Just a train project that has not yet taken shape is so powerful. Not to mention the next national demolition project. Point in the morning, the West meeting was hurriedly terminated because many doctors rushed to their respective universities to carry out simulation analysis engineering plans. Starting in the morning, Western news fell into the ocean of infrastructure studies. Those workers who had built houses for at least a few years did not dare to think about it. What does the demolition of the whole people in the East mean? Chapter 45. 12 o'clock. Point in the living room of Villa number 1 Yulong. Ying Ziyue is eating hot pot. Point the most beautiful thing he ever thought about was when the glacial cold wave came, and then he sat in the tallest ice and snow giant city, watching the snow country train flying under him, watching the ice and snow giant city conduct temperature defense, and then eat hot pot. Point this will be an extremely spectacular scene. Point Yingfu is making drawings next to it. This is a Yanjing demolition plan. Point demolition is divided into two major categories. The first is population resettlement, temporary housing, and the second is selecting areas, laying foundations, and laying down urban planning models. This project is really a super big project in my life, your grandfather's life, our ancestors have never experienced in more than 10 lifetimes. Ying's father couldn't help but sighed. Midnight. What do you think these houses will be built into? We only received instructions for demolition, and we don't know anything about construction. Yingfu smiled bitterly. Point you must know that on the internet, the current infrastructure plans are also close to zero. It must be unprecedented. Ying Ziyue smiled. Point at the dining table. Ying's father sighed for a long time. He looked at the table in front of him and nodded. It must be unprecedented. Demolition and relocation across the country means that all the buildings are torn down, and then new cities are built. New high-rise buildings, new underground installations, and even underground reservoirs are all new. It is shocking to think about it. Yingfu sighed. Point on the other side, Ying Ziyue didn't say much. After all, when the snowy city and snow country train appeared together, the whole people would know what shock these two words mean. Point after eating, Ying Ziyue sat in the bedroom. His desk was filled with sketches. The drawings were exquisite and perfect. His parents respected his privacy and never entered his room. So Ying Ziyue's room was full of various machines, industrial drawings, but also in line with his personality. At this moment, Ying Ziyue turned on the phone, and next he was trying to make the whole country change its infrastructure, thinking at the same time. This is a group named National Designers Group 1. This is Ying Ziyue, who participated in the housing design competition on behalf of the University of Civil Engineering, and won the first prize, and then was drawn into this group. This is a large group of engineering designers across the country, with 2,000 people. Almost everyone is a famous engineering designer division. Open the group. The group is discussing at this moment, and the news is always at 99+. Ying Ziyue entered a message, and dropped into a topic very casually. Yanjing Civil Engineering. Ying Ziyue, hello, big guys. Zhao Mengxin is passing by. Now the country is demolished. What kind of houses do you think will be built in those cities next? Ying Ziyue himself is very well known in the group. After all, he is a high school student. At the same time, the question is very popular. Sure enough, after he spoke, the popularity became higher. Southwestern Designers AOZ. I guess it's a brand new building. Think about it. Nowadays, the trains of major countries are so huge, beyond the imagination of human train history, and the construction projects must be just as great. Shanghai Designers AO King. I guess it is a very large building. The next thing will definitely be that it will be very convenient for people to live, and so on. There is a lot of news, and many designers are discussing what the future house will look like. As the topic provoked, Ying Ziyue spoke again. Yanjing Civil Engineering. Ying Ziyue, do you think it will be a huge metal city with some kind of smog on the streets, and then every human city has a tall steel fence? As for buildings, all kinds of pipeline constructions, gear constructions, and steam installations are as huge as a train. After Ying Ziyue spoke, the enthusiasm of the whole group was mobilized. You must know that according to the current major country train, according to the current national demolition, everything is possible for the next infrastructure construction. The purpose of the existence of this group is to discuss various infrastructure technologies. Soon, every designer in the group couldn't help getting excited. Shanghai Designers AO King. Oh my god, Ying Ziyue's guess is great, and great trains can be carried out. Then what era is this? Every city is like steel and metal steam, which is very similar. It is a technology like steam construction, which seems to be a super tech plus mechanical construction. Guangcheng Designers AOZN. I suddenly feel that this kind of building really seems to be. Think about it, the current college courses are all about industry, machinery, and infrastructure. It's a bit shocking. Beijing Designer Xihai, the steel giant city, the metal giant city, is full of various pipelines. This is very similar to the Victorian era, but it is more imaginative than that era. The purpose of this project is what can be done to build this kind of house. Call point in the bedroom. As a topic mobilizer, Ying Ziyue was very satisfied with the speculations and fantasies of various designers in front of her. This is the power of the people. Every designer dreams of the feasibility and defensiveness of this infrastructure. Very well, after the demolishing of the whole people, but to start the era of infrastructure construction, these designers and engineers will be the best helpers for infrastructure construction in major countries. This is where the whole nation will help and fight together. Chapter 46. Guangcheng. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Guangcheng Twin Zone. This new district is called Twin Towers because there is an extremely famous twin tower. The Petronas Twin Towers are two skyscrapers in a winding structure, like twists and turns. This is the most characteristic twin towers in Guangcheng. It is divided into the Petronas Twin Towers Scenic Area, the Petronas Twin Towers Hotel, and the highest level of the Petronas Twin Towers. It is the famous Twin Towers Architects Association. At this moment, the highest floor of the Twin Towers Architectural Association, with floor-to-ceiling windows in front of you, overlooking the entire Guangcheng. A capable female architect with short hair puts down her mobile phone, and the palm of her hand is a picture of National Designers One Group. This is AOZN, the president of Guangcheng Architecture. At this moment, she is looking down at the city. The dust is flying. This is trucks heading to the suburbs to start construction of temporary model houses. At the same time, they are the first to demolish some dangerous buildings. The dangerous building is being demolished by blasting point in this hall. There are also 4 famous architects in Guangcheng. Their mobile pages are also the issue mentioned by National Designers Group 1. Ying Ziyue point, that is, after the demolition of the whole people, what kind of residence will be built? We must know that the era of fiery national demolition has begun, but the government has not yet announced the housing construction plan. For architects, the next construction is not just houses, but the construction of cities, which has enough to accommodate 2 billion people. Architectural style design. So many architects are looking forward to it. Ying Ziyue, a high-achieving student from the School of Civil Engineering, once won the first prize of architectural design. His father is a high-level real estate company. He proposed this plan. He probably knows some details. What do you think is next? Or what are you doing? Zhao Zian, the president of the architecture, said, she has the skill and bravery of women. Point in the lobby. 4 famous architects are all watching the chat content of National Designers 1 group. The great giant metal city, gears, steam, machinery, steel, giant city walls, and great power trains. This is a vocabulary point that everyone knows, and it is also a brand new world of infrastructure that they have never encountered before. Every city will be built. The official answer is to build walls. The walls will be extremely important. Therefore, the buildings in the city must be extremely tough. It must be related to mechanical steel. Maybe the next one will really be a giant city built of steel. As for the style, it's hard to guess. A middle-aged bald architect smiled dryly. The city level wall. It's so huge, and there are huge trains interspersed with it. Hiss. Another young architect couldn't help but analyze, and then his voice grew louder, and he couldn't believe it. Point in the hall. The other 4 people were also stunned at the same time, and they seemed to have discovered that the next project seemed to be like this, an epic level building. This project is really terrifying. What should be called the next East, the country of iron and steel ambitions. The machinery giant represents the super country of iron and steel machinery. In the hall, 5 architects all felt that a great national project was about to kick off. Point at this moment, this scene is happening in many offline architects, because there are screenshots of the news of this group, and many designers are discussing it offline. 5 PM The weather is getting hotter and sultry. The sun is not in the thorns, but hiding in the deepest part of the clouds. It is sunny, but now the sun has less sunshine time and the sky is covered by more gas, which has led to an increase in sunshine time. It used to be dark at 6:50, but now it is directly dark at 6:30. It is the evening at 5 o'clock. It is the evening when the sun hides in the clouds in the southern suburbs of Yanjing. Here is flatland. At this moment, in the Hanqi special car, the window is open. Ying Ziyue's eyes are piercing, and the driver is the deputy leader Zhao Guofeng. He is driving while reporting, Leader Ying. Now the southern suburbs are to be determined as a temporary residence. From tomorrow, they will be processed in batches and then demolished. Zhao Guofeng said. On the roadside, trucks are pulling containers, which are well-assembled containers, equipped with home appliances, air conditioners, and so on. Demolition across the country is also beginning. Watching this scene, Ying Ziyue nodded. The train project is nearing the end. The snowstorm kicks off, and the nationwide boom is slowly beginning. At present, 1,200 mechanical professors and mechanical engineers have gathered at the Yanjing Research Center, waiting for instructions. Zhao Guofeng said again. Ying Ziyue took out a form and placed it in the passenger seat. Next, let those mechanical designers proceed according to the contents of the form. Title of the table regarding the plan sheet for machines that can be operated under extreme cold temperatures. Zhao Guofeng nodded and then collected the plan. The car stopped at the Yulong Villa. In front of the villa, a family of trucks had spontaneously driven, and many people were still saying this. We moved in the 5th batch. There is no other support for major power projects. Anyway, I found out now. We don't know how powerful the city of Yanjing is after it is built. Think about it. The exit of the million-scale train station is here. Now it's said that the foundation can be as long as the Qin Great Wall. When the time comes to build a good city, I can't believe it. In front of the truck, many businessmen living in the villa area were talking about it. They looked ahead and saw the huge project. Ying Ziyue walked by with a smile and returned home at about 6:30. At this moment, the sky was completely dark. The sultry weather continued. The weather has become less sunny, and the parents in the living room are watching TV. This is a disaster news broadcast from all regions of the world. A large number of organisms floating on the surface of the ocean without oxygen are close to extinction. The melting of glaciers has led to frequent tsunamis in offshore areas. This kind of news is just small news. The current news is directly about the fluctuations in the eruption of large volcanoes and the enlargement of the earthquake zone. Now it has directly become news about catastrophic disasters. Call. Ying Ziyue let out a sullen breath, which shows that it has entered a major disaster trend. The time is shorter. Chapter 47. 9 p.m. Yanjing National Research Center, Department of Mechanical Building. The building was temporarily expanded and currently accommodates 1,200 professors from the Department of Mechanical Engineering, as well as mechanical engineers from major projects. Without going into too much detail, Ziyue Feng stood on the high platform. Everyone, time does not wait for me. The Great Power Project has started, and I don't have time to wait. This is the goal of a mechanical plan jointly developed by the Internal Affairs and Special Research Institute. Then the All Machinery Institute will stop, just to study this kind of machinery. Ziyue Feng spoke, and then the guards began to issue data sheets with the distribution completed. Everyone's complexion began to change. Ziyue, the director of the Jiangnan No. 1 Machinery Institute, S face changed. He was sitting in the second position in the first row. At this moment, the table in his hand reads the foot is 150 degrees below zero, with a thermal insulation layer. Differential machine used under the differential machine. Ziyue has a complicated expression. This is a conceptual, purely mechanically driven computer. It has an ancient style, but it can be used freely in severe cold environments. If the train can be used for train calculations, checkpoint opening and so on. Followed by the second one, the train opens the channel. Electronic tube computer, hiss. Ziyue smiled bitterly again. This is a computer with an electronic tube as a computing unit that can process complex programming instructions, simple and complex gear transmission control mechanisms, and simple electrical signals. Can transmit various complex instructions over long distances to control various levels. The advantage is extremely high cold resistance. Above 01 Beidou, precision instruments will completely stop working. After stopping by more than 200 degrees, the precision instruments under the temperature isolation step that encountered the cold wave in the first wave were also damaged. Want to compare this kind of improved differential engine? Electronic tube computer can try to use. Then comes the hydraulic transmission mechanism and smart pipeline equipped with smart train detection. The outer shell is connected by rivets, and then a temperature insulation layer is added. There are also some equipped with simple and intelligent mechanical alpha heavy machinery robots, which are used as the machinery of the train track. On the project schedule, all mechanical cold resistant devices are based on extreme cold resistance. Call. In less than 10 minutes, after watching the engineering list, the mechanical professors and mechanical design professors present change their expressions. Not complicated, but a strange expectation. The main course of colleges and universities across the country is mechanics. Engineers like us are also making mechanical structures. Great power trains are also products of violent mechanical steel. Ziyue muttered to herself that he is one of the most famous mechanical professors at the Zhejiang Machinery Institute. From the present step by step, he can naturally see that the layout of the big country is really big. As small as the major mechanical courses in colleges and universities, as large as the steel making plan of the whole factory in the south. In the presence, all mechanical professors have discovered that these mechanical research directions are all related to extreme cold resistance. At this moment, the mechanical group of the Yanjing Research Center has been set up, and the research is assured to be a large-scale cold-resistant steel mechanical body. The long black night struck with the sultry anxiety before the disaster overnight. 8 o'clock in the morning. Supernatural Special Research Institute, Conference Room of Infrastructure Building. Ziyue Yan, the designer of the Twin Towers, rarely came back from the construction site. At this moment, he was drawing in the conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows. Because he was too focused, He didn't know that Ying Ziyue was standing in the hall, enjoying the sunshine, and watching him drawing point as the chief engineer of the train station. Ziyue Yan naturally knows the construction sketches, but he is drawing a color picture of the train in the giant city taking shape. The first thing I drew was a square map. On the map, the buildings in each city were demolished, leaving only the flat land for the development foundation. Then the train was wandering around, shaking and buzzing, transporting all kinds of materials. Then there are vacant lots to be developed and constructed. When the painting reached this point, Ziyue Yan couldn't help but hold his chin and didn't dare to write. He has recently read the rumors in the construction industry, the idea of steel machinery, and has also heard of the plan of Jucheng super technology, but now he still has a hard time writing. Clatter with the sound of pacing, Ying Ziyue patted Ziyue Yan's footsteps, and Ziyue Yan immediately showed a small admiring smile. Taking the drawing pen, Ying Ziyue started drawing without thinking. The first is the heavy mechanical robots walking cumbersomely next to the train. The mechatronics computer starts to control the opening of the train station. As for the difference engine, it records the driving steps and track arrangement. Then the wind and snow came, and these heavy robots could still operate to ensure the normal operation of the track. Seeing the first step, Ziyue Yan's eyes lit up, and his hands clenched, his fists unnaturally. Then the second step, as this was a city with empty spaces, I saw a truck pulling steel trucks to every city that was about to be built. From the sight of God. Every city change is full of materials. The construction is very simple. First is a unified 10-story building, which is a thickened building. The wall seems to be filled with something, and then the enclosing wall. Almost half of the wall is made of steel, followed by steam pipes installed underground, and so on. Pipes emitting hot gas, air pipes with dense steam, and mysterious solar panels on the wall. Ziyue Yan's face flushed as he saw just the first draft. No wonder it's the craze for the whole people. No wonder the Southern North Steel plant starts working day and night. It turned out to be the mechanical age. Chapter 48. The structure of the city wall in the style of black orange. The inside of the city in the form of steam. Ziyue Yan couldn't help but speak. Mechanical steam, in the blizzard and the extreme cold. Machinery may be an application, but it is estimated that it is not enough. In front of the drawing panel, Ying Ziyue's drawing pen did not stop. At the moment it is a sketch. Steel steam, a giant city that looks extremely rough. But then Ying Ziyue painted again, starting from the Cold War period, the black technology stored in our country, as well as the currently developed temperature insulation layer, pulse device can be used again. Then came the silver super solar panel with black technology luster, and the artificial sun, automatic underground reservoir. There are also energy input pipelines. There are too many. If the initial scale of the city is mechanical steel, then after the city is built, it will be an advanced version of the South Glacier Science and Technology North Ecological Shed. The integration of technology and machinery. This is the initial goal of infrastructure construction, because the basic building specifications of the giant cities are similar with a major country train. If it is in a blizzard, steam is boiling. The air current is moving, and the movement brings temperature, and the temperature continues to rise, resisting the cold wave in the 5 atmospheres. The wind and snow were whizzing, and a city of machinery that looked like the texture of future technology appeared in front of the two of them. They only felt majestic and majestic. As for the west, they have already become beautiful ice sculptures. Only the huge east exudes vitality. Call. After putting down the drawing pen, Ziyue Yan almost looked at Ying Ziyue in amazement. Go, you have more important things, Ying Ziyue said. The latter was excited to leave, because Ziyue Yan was also responsible for the station project. Panoramic, under the floor-to-ceiling windows, where the sun was shining, Ying Ziyue was left alone. Fighting against disasters is not that simple. Trains, snowstorms. There are also city management, decision making and policies after the ice age. Resist the blizzard, which involves human management. And it must appear after the cold wave. When the time comes, material management, work conditions, worker management, material transportation, and so on. All cities are important decisions. Call. Opening the window and feeling the sultry air, Ying Ziyue sighed. In the disasters of the previous life, He had seen various decisions and had seen cities fall due to management. Now, the so-called doomsday humanity in the West has been directly constructed by the power of the entire nation in the East, and the accumulation of grain has forcibly defeated it. In the morning, Ying Ziyue read a lot of books on marine science, and at the same time, read the follow-up plan of the station. The foundation is completed, and construction is now starting. One half of the track circling the country has been paved, leaving only the mountains and rivers. The demolition of the whole people is also slowly proceeding, and everything is proceeding in an orderly manner. After opening the mobile news, all the recent news has changed. A headline video. All the demolition of Beichengchengshan village has been completed, and the second batch of demolition plans are in progress. The foundation of the Northern Agricultural Center train station is completed. This is a super foundation project covering nearly 5 million square meters. Demolition. The foundations of the train station have all begun. At the same time, part of the news is controversial about the whether the waiting for jobs of the whole people is slowly being lifted, and the domestic and foreign affairs are all being adjusted in the provinces of the country. Ying Ziyue only needs to issue instructions as the highest decision-making capacity. Zhao Guofeng is here, standing at the door of the conference room, holding the demolition plan sheet. Leader Ying. Big country trains can transport to every province, but within the province's transportation, every province has 7 or 8 cities, or even more, and each city has 7 or 8 districts. And then there are more counties, especially the southern provinces and cities are scattered. The northern provinces and cities can achieve short-distance pipeline transportation. What about the southern urban transportation? Zhao Guofeng said. His question is very real, because after the cold wave, those urban areas can only be self-supplied, and trains are used to transport materials from the provinces. What should be done in those remote urban areas? Clatter. Ying Ziyue tapped a table lightly, and then pointed to the reservoirs. This is a reservoir in the south, and a few hundred kilometers away is the southern part of the Liaohe and Bihei area. Disasters come. A tsunami and earthquake occur. Floods will pass around cities in these high areas, which means that these urban cities will be surrounded by floods. After the glacier, these floods will turn into southern glaciers, forming a thick layer of ice. In fact, those urban cities are all huge glaciers. Seeing this, Zhao Guofeng was even more curious about how to transport materials in these cities under the glacier layer. This time Ying Ziyue took out the previous drawing and pointed to the train traveling around the country. Then he scribbled a huge icebreaker. The icebreaker received the materials from the train, then broke through the layers of glaciers, and transported them to any urban city in the south. This scene is overlooked from the perspective of God, and it is even more spectacular. The picture is the ultimate silver white. Just by seeing the picture, you can feel the extreme howling of the wind and snow, and the continuous gust of wind. In southern cities, every urban area is surrounded by giant glaciers. The snow country train gallops on the border of the country. The icebreaker roared in the province, shattering glaciers and transporting supplies in those giant cities. Braving the steam are like science fiction with the texture of the future. Hissed the deputy team leader. Zhao Guofeng sucked in air. He was accustomed to Ying Ziyue's various methods, but at this moment he couldn't help but be shocked. This disaster was completely destroyed by this country. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. The 16th. 10 o'clock in the morning. In the meeting room. Zhao Guofeng left in excitement, because the train and the next icebreaker plan made him let go of all his worries. In front of the French window, Ying Ziyue opened his notebook, and he logged onto a website called Ocean Ship Research Club, then opened the website forum. Ying Ziyue's father is a ship enthusiast. He likes to speak on this post very much. Ying Ziyue's login is surprisingly his father's account. Published a post with the headline, "If our scientific expedition team is trapped on an island in the southern glacier, the rescue team needs to set off from the edge of the southern glacier. At this moment, the seawater has become a glacier due to extreme temperatures, and the thickness has reached nearly 30 meters, and given the extremely cold temperature of -200 degrees below zero, what kind of kinetic energy icebreaker can complete the rescue, or what temperature insulation treatment does the icebreaker need to do? After posting the post, Ying Ziyue set up a reward for the answer, then a message appeared. Ziyang Shipyard First Class Engineer Ma Yun, do you mean to build an aircraft carrier Nemesis P to the great nuclear-powered warship, equipped with anti-ship cruise missiles, equipped with nuclear warheads, defense against all missiles within 500 kilometers, except for the aircraft carrier, nuclear-powered warships. As for crushing ice, it's just a trivial matter. Young people, you don't know our warship technology. Beijing Shipyard First Class Designer Chen Ma, I suggest to refer to the Poseidon nuclear-powered unmanned submarine, which is equipped with the ultimate nuclear-powered diving propulsion. As for the outer periphery, a super insulation layer can be used. Refer to the South Glacier ecological shed structure, and then build a huge ship, which can shatter the glacier, but resist the extreme cold temperature. Shanghai Dazhong Shipyard Zhangjiji, nothing else. Starting with the Lenin-class nuclear-powered icebreaker plan, using atomic energy reactors to generate energy. This is the technology 70 years ago. Now our atomic energy reactors are even more terrifying. I bet that this kind of nuclear-powered atomic energy can shatter a 30-meter super ice layer, and can shatter all ice layers. As for the periphery, the Victory mechanical warship steam cold resistance technology is used. At the same time, it can be equipped with 5,000 cabins, which can carry 1810 people, and can carry out the function of transporting materials, to guide the transport vessel to open the way. There are too many messages. Only from this moment, the ocean power that my country has developed for nearly 50 years has been revealed. Nuclear-powered icebreakers can only be used in the province. Without trains, the cold wave would freeze the nuclear-powered glaciers, but even so, this is already an extremely great icebreaker plan. Ying Ziyue quickly continued to look at the messages, and the next messages were shocked by the warship designers one by one. Ocean Shipyards AOZ, what does the host want to design? Does it mean that my country has to start a major project for icebreakers? Shanghai Shipyard David NIU, nothing else. I just want to tell the host, no matter what you do, you just need to know that our ocean power is very strong. There are nearly tens of thousands of warship engineers and marine engineers so far. Call close the message. Ying Ziyue prefers to watch the people's craze for the plan from the perspective of ordinary people. It is now proved that the icebreaker plan will be easier. After all, my country's development direction is stronger in the ocean. Take out the phone and make a call, Miss Yan. The icebreaker plan has begun. On the other end of the phone was Foreign Minister Yan. After hanging up, Ying Ziyue walked to the sketch of the province again, and drew huge nuclear-powered icebreakers one by one. The train galloped, and the icebreaker tore. Especially when the snow and cold waves hit. This scene is extremely exciting just thinking about it. In general, the whole world will see how strong the trains and icebreakers in the East are. Chapter 50. On July 17th, 87 shipyards, including Guangcheng Shipyard, Shanghai Shipyard, Beijing Shipyard, and China Eagle Joint Venture Shipyard, gathered as many as tens of thousands of projects. The plan is unknown. Headlines. On July 20th, the foundation of the Yanjing train station was completed, and the construction of the triangular arch-shaped million-scale train station began. On July 25th, 3 train stations started construction at the same time. On July 30th, the train tracks were basically laid. A total of 20 million railway workers were started. The total construction time was 28 days, which is more than 100,000 kilometers of the original railway. The current length has reached 400,000 kilometers. The last few difficulties. The lot is under construction, and is divided into multiple caves and gravel terrain and swamp terrain. On August 10th, the global sunrise time was 9 AM and the sunset time was 4 PM. At present, 4 major disasters have occurred. 2/3 of the national demolition tasks have been completed, and 1/3 of the foundations in the city have been laid. On August 10th, there are still 50 days before the arrival of the Ice Age. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the Yulong Villa community was the last place to be demolished in Yanjing. Now all the high-rise buildings and old houses in Yanjing have been demolished. It was pitch black now. At 8 o'clock in the morning, it was pitch black. The continuing sultry heat is astonishing. From July 17th to August 10th, there were no major moves in the east for 23 days. Ying Ziyue just watched the rapid development of the big country and the whole people, laying the foundations of large-scale infrastructure. Now it's the last 50 days of the glacier. In theory, there are still 30 days, because in the last 20 days, a blizzard will come, and then the continuous cold wave, strong wind, glacial layer, and finally the extreme sub-zero cold wave will slowly come. In the first 20 days, the continuous blizzard will not stop, and the living humans will witness a miracle. That is, 40% of the world will become a glacier. Survivors will see two diametrically opposite temperatures inside and outside the city, and two temperatures inside the train, that have caused death. This is just a trace of the power of nature's glaciers in the living room at the moment. The lights are turned on. For many ordinary people, this is a very unaccustomed thing. The lights are turned on at 8 in the morning, but now the weather outside is pitch dark, except for the construction area which is under construction, and some street lights shining. Therefore, many people are accustomed to turning on the lights, and also accustomed to the shorter sunshine time. Open the window. The weather is no longer sultry, but a continuous morning breeze, and a touch of cold. In the bedroom, the parents are sighing. It's been hot to death since July, and it's sweltering. Now it's getting more and more complicated. It lasts for a month. The sunshine lasts for less than 7 hours. It's only in August that the coolness started. A notice was posted to deal with some kind of disaster plan, but did not announce what the plan is. It is estimated that the situation is extremely great. Ying's father couldn't help but look out the living room window and exclaimed, "It was a long dark night." Yes, now I have heard that a plan codenamed Giant City is going to be accelerated. After the train project stops, the project will be started by 2 billion people at the same time. Ying also exclaimed in front of the French window in the next bedroom. Ying Ziyue sighed out of the window gently. Now he is wearing cotton and sleepy because of the chill. In her mind, Ying Ziyue recalled the WDW climate survey report submitted by many countries last year. That was a report made by several economists, geometeorologists last year. Climate change has worsened, the pressure on the land has increased, the dryness of the climate has increased, and the food has begun to decrease and increase. In last year's Marine Variation SSV report, the content is the Marine Environment Observation Report that unites the global appeal. Because of ocean pollution this year, a large number of fish died, and then the official call for a comprehensive forecast of the marine environment, detection of the ocean climate, and protection of the Earth's ecology. Many meteorologists have discovered the problem, but it was too late. At this time last year, the three countries also issued drought notices and heat warnings in August, and some areas in the west were still bubbling hot. Yanqing in the east is still hot in short sleeves. It was a really hot summer ago and never returned now. Clatter in front of the floor to ceiling windows. On the wall of the bedroom behind Ying Ziyue, there were pictures of the second team's gradual changes in climate, all of which were 1-to-1 with the current changes, and the changes were correct one by one. Because of the sunshine time, the weather is bad. It has also led to the rapid advancement of global meteorological science and technology. For example, the current weather bureaus around the world can detect the arrival of storms ahead of time with their instruments. They can use the nowcast mix system to predict the arrival of storms. Through the two-dimensional map, the sky can be explored in three-dimensional space. Weather to come. In addition, the Meteorological Bureau from the Northern Glacier country has also produced technological equipment that can predict the intensity of storms by testing the initial surface area, wind speed, temperature, pressure, and storm 16 characteristics, and then calculating the simulation demonstration and calculating whether it is dangerous and sustainable. Some countries have also launched meteorological launch vehicles, which can check the ozone layer and sea surface temperature. Now all Western countries have got one thing through meteorological data. That is, it may be continuous heat or continuous cold, or continuous geological disasters. In short, there is no meteorological genius in the West to calculate from geography, astronomy, history, and the second epoch glacier, that a cold wave will come. They only know that there will be disasters. You know that there is only one Ying Ziyue in the East Point Clatter. Ying Ziyue opened all the windows. It was 9 o'clock, and it was dawn point at the same time. An incoming call on his cell phone appeared. The caller was Zhao Guofeng, the deputy head of the special research group, and the phone was connected. The first voice inside was Zhao Guofeng's voice. Leader Ying, the West is about to start a disaster prevention plan. Hanging up the phone, Ying Ziyue stretched out his limbs. He looked out the window with a clear voice. He started because of himself. The East entered the national infrastructure and also started because of himself. The West also started a prevention plan. In short, he has only one word to the air at this moment. Welcome the world to the great era. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.